Hey, everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with another two filmmakers reviewing one film. And today, my special guest is,
Jonathan A. Moody.
yes, you
Again,
are. Again, yes, you were just on here recently.
I
So,
know I've been on this show a pretty good amount of times
yeah,
actually.
you're becoming
So
a regular.
I guess, yeah.
So, you never know. You never know. You might be
Never know.
like Saturday Night Live has the, like one actor's been on
Alec
there like
Baldwin.
20. Yeah, Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, yeah, but I think, yeah, Baldwin is, I think, the
I think
most.
Baldwin is done though. I don't think they're asking him back.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about him because I don't think he's
No,
acted in a Kevin
no,
Smith film at all.
no, he hasn't. So, uh, uh, but yeah, it's yeah, that whole thing
Before we
sucks.
begin, I do want to say, and you know this, I mean, as you can see, I'm wearing my View Askew, whoops, I guess that,
Oh, the
Vulgarian
Volt, yeah, okay.
the Vulgarians. That's their, that's a jersey that I got from them. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, as you know. But many of the people that your followers might not know that because they might not know who the fuck I am. So I'm a huge Kevin Smith nerd. He's the one who got me into, Mallrats is the movie that got me into, the world of Kevin Smith. And then I realized, oh shit, you can be an independent filmmaker. You know what I mean? So he'll always, no matter what, have a place in my heart.
Well, I think that there have been two different eras of great filmmakers, and and I have not seen that happen again. The first was the 70s, where you're seeing there's pictures at a booth in a restaurant, and it's like Francis Ford Coppola, Scorsese, De Palma, Spielberg, Lucas, all in the same booth because they're all friends. And
Right.
they all went back and forth. Lucas would read De Palma's, screenplay. Spielberg would help, Lucas with casting, that whole thing. And that to me was probably the most important time in filmmaking. Though those guys, you will never get that group of people again because there was no competitiveness. It really was. Brian De Palma was casting Carrie, and Lucas was casting Star Wars. I said, why don't we just hold them in the same place but like two separate rooms?
Hmm.
And the actors just went from audition to audition, and there was no competitiveness. And
Um,
you know,
but you were saying there's another era, and I think what I know what you're going to bring up.
so that
And
would be the Tarantino,
Robert Rodriguez,
Rodriguez,
Kevin
Kevin
Smith,
Smith,
Richard Linklater,
Linklater. Yeah, that
um,
Soderbergh, Steven Soderbergh. That
Steven Soderbergh. I mean, Soderbergh kind of was by himself. Like I never really saw him hanging out with those guys.
not
I think.
hanging out, but it was that independent type of filmmaking.
Hmm.
And I really do think that you kind of clumped in like Tarantino, Rodriguez, and Smith, even though
Hmm.
Rodriguez and Tarantino worked together a fair amount. Smith was never involved, but it was that whole thing in like the 90s, basically, right? Am I right on that? 90s?
Yeah,
Yeah, because
90s,
they're the
early
90s
90s.
that refreshed me. So it might have been like new for you, but at my age, it made me feel like, wow, you could make a movie at a convenience store using credit cards. You know,
Exactly.
you could be, Robert Rodriguez and go out and make El Mariachi for like no money at all.
Hmm.
And in Tarantino, the whole idea of working at a video store, taking your film to Sundance, going through that whole Sundance thing, and then getting to make the movie eventually. To me, there has not been anything like that since. And there's more directors to that era, but um, I just don't see that happening again. I think now everything is so competitive, and that you really don't get that. you know oh, it's great to see
Well,
these two filmmakers separate, but when they come together, it's like, oh, that's awesome, they're working together again. Who Nobody's doing that these days.
well, you're right because things have changed. You know, Hollywood isn't a Hollywood that it used to be in the 70s. And it's definitely not the Hollywood it was in the 90s. I think I think I heard Tarantino talking recently about how 80s was a terrible era for him, which I disagree with. I love the 80s, but the
I would
80s,
disagree with that. Yeah.
yeah, but he didn't, but he thinks the 80s were a hell of a lot better than they are now, you know, and I would agree with that totally, you know. Um,
Yeah.
you know, because nowadays, I mean, I like Marvel, you know, and I like DC. I like Blumhouse, you know what I mean? I like all this stuff. And Blumhouse is a little bit more, you know, different, but you know what I mean? I like the movies that are out, you know, but it's definitely a different time. You know, Hollywood is more, oh God, we're too afraid that we're gonna get bankrupt. So we're not gonna take any chances on things, you know? And they've kind of always been sort of like that, but like a little less when they were letting directors have control, you know? Like Scorsese, and even up to Tarantino, Tarantino still gets control. He gets final cut. He gets, nobody bothers him and says, you're casting wrong. Let me step it. You know what I mean? Nobody would dare mess with him, you know? But really don't have that anymore, you
No,
know?
and I would say in the 80s, I would put Roger Corman in there, because without Corman, with the 70s going into the 80s, all these directors and actors and producers and writers were discovered, who then did go out and make big movies. So you could almost kind of put, kind of like Roger Corman up here, and then it goes like into the 70s, the 80s, because all these guys at one point, including James Cameron and a lot of people, work for Roger Corman. And you don't have a Roger Corman these days, to where, you could say, oh yeah, this person discovered that person. And it's depressing, because we see this on the low budget level, on stuff that we're used to on this micro budget level, all the way up to, DC, Marvel, now how everybody's connected. So if it's DC, you're talking Warner Brothers, or, Marvel would be,
Disney.
Disney. And in that, there's none of this. It's all either like you agree with somebody or you're out.
Right.
And I like how filmmakers like Tarantino are saying things. I don't 100% agree with him, but I do agree with the um yeah, people don't go to a Marvel movie to see Chris Evans, they go to see Captain America.
Yeah.
And you
By
could
the way,
see
if you
that.
do disagree with him, he will reject your hypothesis.
That is true. And I would love for him to do that to me one day, because then I can go,
Yeah.
yes. That would be awesome.
You'd be happy if he rejects.
Yeah,
I reject your
because
hypothesis. Move on.
thank you. I'd be the only person happy that he got rejected.
I'm actually going to start saying it now. You know, when I'm just tired of people like arguing with me, I'll be like, well, I reject your
That's
hypothesis.
why I have that meme of him saying that, at the Cannes Film Festival, and it's got the little word bubble, I reject your hypothesis. And I don't argue with people anymore. I just put that meme up, just saying, I reject your hypothesis. And
Yeah.
and to me, that it's, and I'll just keep putting it for every argument that person wants to continue with. Nope, reject, 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 reject. But he's right to an extent. I mean, because look at what, nobody cares what Robert Downey Jr. does outside of Iron Man. His movies
Well,
bomb.
I mean, and look, 80s were a magical time for me, right? And if they weren't for him, because I think it depends on the, because he really grew up on the 70s movies, right? Like
He
that was
loves
his,
70s. Yeah, him
that's
him
his
and like Rob
favorite.
Zombie love the 70s.
Right. That's his, those are their time periods that they love, they adore. And so, when they look at the 80s, it's sort of like, okay, we're starting like it's changing. Things are changing. Probably Paul would probably disagree. Paul liked the 80s. There was a lot of good stuff, but then 90s he would definitely, but he would also he also hated the 90s. Paul did. And um and Tarantino made movies in the 90s, so the 90s to him were amazing, and everything, and sort of defined a new generation. But then 2000, it's sort of, I think it's sort of it's just like trends. you know. 60s, 60s had a certain style. 70s had bell bottoms and disco, you know, it was a sort of style. 80s had a flair, had a style. 90s started to kind of not have that, you know. We and 2000s, what fucking style did we have in 2000s? Like, and I hate to say it, like social media is the greatest thing in the world because like we wouldn't be able to do this had social media not existed. So like I can't
Right.
completely think like, but it sort of has ruined a lot of stuff, you know, because you don't, because back in the 80s and 90s you had to work and you know you had to like watch, you know, Clerks, realize it was an independent film, you know. For Kevin Smith, it was Slacker, realized, oh my God, you can do this. You can go make your own movie. You know, now it's like, oh, we got crowdfunding, we have online, you know, we can
Digital
email a million
cameras, you
people.
got your phone.
You can use your phone to make movies, and
Well,
so
and that's almost a selling point on some films is that it says, you know, entirely shot on iPad or
iPhone.
whatever, or
Yeah.
iPhone, or yeah. I mean, it's so in some ways
That's not a
that's,
selling point for me. That's you know, but
I mean, and
whatever.
that's the thing that kills me with Kevin Smith is Tarantino grew. There is a huge difference between Reservoir Dogs and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Massive difference. And I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his best movie. I've seen it twice. I want to see that, what, like 3 hour cut or whatever it is that he's
Mm.
been talking about. I would
He's
love
also
to.
got a novel that I own that's amazing,
Yeah, yeah, I saw
of
that. Yeah.
Once Upon a
And
Time. So it explains more.
yeah, and he's hit and miss with me. I mean, I don't think everything is great. I enjoyed
I,
Inglorious Bastards, but and
I
I've said
enjoy
this many.
Inglourious Bastard, but I don't think I could watch it like over and over again. Um,
Some
uh,
of the monologues are a little long, but
yeah.
if you take out the bastards and just drop them off, the movie would still conclude exactly the same way. So the bastards don't even matter.
Mm.
And I have a feeling that's because the original script got leaked online and he like rewrote the movie in a month.
Right.
So, you know, something like that. But it's, you know, when you look at something like Kill Bill, you know, Kill Bill 2 and stuff, then there's a definite growth. And that includes Rodriguez with just starting out with El Marachi and then basically becoming like the green screen king, you know, and
I mean, but Rodriguez I love, but I think he's a great director, you know. He is not as great at writing, you know, like when
no,
From Dusk
no.
Till Dawn is one of my favorites of his, and that's because Tarantino's script and his direction was perfect together. But then you look at movies like the Spy Kids movies or his kid movies or whatever. He lets his kids write them with him. I'm like, come on, like, like that's cute, but like for like a short film maybe, but like for a feature film, you know, you know it's not going to get as well, you know,
Well, that's why
received.
I think Tarantino is the writing, directing. Rodriguez is more technical. You know, he
Yeah,
is the green screens and the cameras and you know, harnesses and things like that that he, you know, and I don't know what he's done recently. I mean, I haven't seen his name attached to anything, but I mean,
he's been doing some Star Wars stuff. He's been working on the Mandalorian and everything like
oh,
that,
that's
and the
right. Yeah,
Book of
yeah.
Boba Fett. So he's
Well,
been
see,
doing.
okay, so there's another couple guys that, you know, John Favreau and then Doug Lyman.
Mhm.
You know, they were around that same time.
But see, it was the 90s. It was all the 90s. Like these people weren't in the like 2000s. They became part of 2000, right? So like I was thinking about it too. Chris Nolan, you know, fantastic director. Everybody loves him. I mean, most everybody, you know. What is it? Who else? Darren Aronofsky, you know. But these guys started in the 90s, you
I
know.
would say more Aronofsky because especially with something like Pi, there was a you might be able to find it on YouTube. There's I think it's 60 minutes, and they did a whole special on independent filmmakers. And one of them was Darren Aronofsky. He was making Pi. One of them was Vin Diesel when he was directing his film Strays.
Yeah, I've
And
never
there,
seen that actually.
yeah, and there was a third one, and I forget who the third guy is, but they all were trying to get into Sundance, and that was the huge thing: was could they meet the deadline to get their film into Sundance? And Darren Aronofsky didn't. He missed it, but Vin Diesel with Strays did, and the other guy did. So I like to look at these filmmakers in the same way as the guys from the 70s, in more of a dirty way. And I don't
Right.
mean like porno. I mean like dirty, that they
You
actually
weren't thinking dirty thoughts about them?
no, not that either. That they were on the ground. They were in the dirt. They got their hands dirty, because they were so hungry to make movies that, especially with like Roger Corman with Coppola, and Martin Scorsese also with with Corman with like Boxcar Bertha, that these guys were willing to work on no budgets. They had to learn everything as they went, because some of them went to film school, some didn't. Spielberg never did. And that's what I mean. So even with the 90s guys, where you have somebody like Kevin Smith, who's just working at a convenience store.
I mean, originally he did go to film school for like a semester, and then he just was like, I'm done. Like everything I can do, I can just save my money and go make my own movie, because all you really needed to know was like, like he found Scott Mosier and he found David Klein in film school, in Vancouver Film School, and then he came down and then he
Well,
made
yeah,
Clerks.
and they stayed. At least Scott Mosier stayed, so he could learn the producing side while Smith was writing.
Yeah, and so did Dave.
From what I
David
remember.
did too. So they stayed and they actually worked on Clerks all together and everything. And now David, once again, Mandalorian, they're stealing all the people. But like Mandalorian has David Klein as the DP, and I think that's amazing.
So why have these other people grown and Smith hasn't? Why is he
'Cause
stagnated?
I don't think he is, and we'll get into that. We'll get into
Absolutely
that.
is.
I
mean,
don't
that's
think so, but
so
all right.
okay. So so you
Real quick
recently,
before we do that, before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, did want to share my stuff because we talked about that before.
and yes, and I will let people know, as I'm sure when you've seen my videos before, I always have something to show. I have nothing.
Yeah, apparently
I
you don't have any Kevin
absolutely
Smith stuff.
nothing from Kevin Smith at all.
And I think I have more stuff, but I just can't find it at the moment. And
yeah, I might have Clerks 2 DVD floating around somewhere. I don't remember. I don't know.
Oh, the DVDs are all at the studio, so I only have my Blu-rays here.
All right, so what you got?
The first off is the original Clerks.
Okay, yep,
15th
great.
anniversary.
Always be a great movie.
I mean, fantastic. And then I have two versions of this. Mallrats. Two versions. There's the what is it? I think this is like some whatever release it is. And it's got the theatrical and extended. And then the Arrow has like way more stuff, So
yeah, churn it. Like, yeah, there you go. Oh man, that's got a ton of stuff on it.
Yeah. So, and it's got the basically theatrical cut and extended and TV cuts.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Awesome. And then next is Chasing Amy, of course, one of my favorites. Now I also have the Criterion DVD of it, which is I don't know where it is. It's not in this thing. But so anyway, this is one of my favorite movies. And then I rewatched it. It's definitely not something like I don't think the LGBTQ community. I don't know. I'm like very shocked that somebody would like that the LGBTQ community like glad would love this like they did, But next they got a lot of hate for this one, Dogma.
Yeah.
Classic.
Which I think is his best movie.
Honestly, I didn't like it when I liked it, but I didn't like it as much the first few times I saw it. And I mean it's grown on me, but it's not because like there's hate on Christianity or Catholic stuff. It's mainly because it's just sort of talky, way too talky at times, where they're just talking about all of that stuff. And after a while, I'm like, oh my God, I want dick and fart jokes.
No, because that's what it is. It's his experience. A lot of his movies, as we have found out, are based on his life, and it's all about his issues with Catholicism. So
Um,
and I love it for that. I think it's great that he tackled that.
well, see, I mean, he was growing at one point, as a filmmaker, maybe, and even this is like beautifully shot, done very well. Then another classic is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Strikes Back is good.
I really like.
I like that one.
I remember seeing this in a theater with other Kevin Smith fans, and just the feeling you all get watching it again, and everything. It was great. Then a movie that not so great, but not his. He didn't write it, so it's Cop Out. He did not.
Oh
write
yeah,
this.
yeah. That's the film to
It's
me.
a pretty
that
rough movie, man.
killed
But
him, just ultimately destroyed him.
I know, but
And we'll all get into that more when we discuss our feelings on him, because that's one of my in my list of reasons of why I think he is the way he is today.
And then I've got the first of his 2 movies that he did with Canada, Tusk. Which
Interesting
I
flick.
actually really like Tusk. A lot of people, it's like hit or miss with them. Either you really you like it or you hate it.
It's part of his trilogy. It's
well,
Tusk.
you will eventual trilogy if he does
Moose
Jaws.
Well, no, isn't Yoga Hosers part 3?
Yeah, but there isn't. It's Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and there's going to be Moose Jaws.
No, there's Red State.
Red State doesn't count because it's not Canadian. It's not his Canadian trilogy.
Oh, okay. I thought that was
Red
part
State
of that.
is completely different thing. It was his first venture into horror,
right.
but it wasn't. It's not connected to this, thing.
Well, you know more than I do, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, originally they were going to do Moose Jaws, which would have been Jaws with a moose. Pretty much what it says with the and have a lot of it was. I think they were going to bring back Johnny Depp's character and all the Lily Depp and Harley Quinn, his daughter's characters from Tusk and Yoga Hosers, but whatever, they never did it, so didn't matter. Then I've got Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and we'll talk about that because I'm not. I don't hate it, but I don't. That's not my favorite. I will have Clerks 3 on Friday, I think. So that's what it gave me an update saying it's coming on Friday. So and I'll have that on the glorious 4K.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's a limited.
It's such 4K. A beautiful looking movie.
I know, but I mean, it was only a couple more dollars to have it on 4K as opposed to have it on Blu-ray, and I've never had a Kevin Smith. There's never been a Kevin Smith movie on 4K yet. I mean, obvious reasons. It's not, his movies aren't kind of made
ugly?
To be. They're not ugly, but they're not.
They look like they're made for TV movies, which are normally kind of ugly, especially back in the day.
I don't think they're ugly. I mean, I think Clerks is a beautiful movie, especially in black and white.
Well, that's because he had more passion back then, and black and white normally looks good. So.
Also got these. These are little comics, quick stop comics. They've only done 2 so far, but they're gonna have
don't know those,
yeah. So I think they're gonna have 4 of this, and then who knows what Kevin will write after, that. Hopefully they'll come back and do some more, like maybe Bloodman and Chronic stories or something, which
yay.
I mean, I'm cool with that. I'd be cool with the Bloodman and Chronic movie,
He's like one of these people that are just stuck in a certain time, and it's just
I like it. I
mean,
love the Views
pot's
universe.
legal now. Who cares? I mean, it's like pot's not this big thing anymore. It's
they talk about that. They're like, that's what we did in the 90s, son. That was funny.
No, it wasn't.
That cracked me up. I'm sorry.
No, and to let people know, you at least on your first viewing, you liked Clerks 3. On my first viewing, because I'm assuming both of us have now seen it twice. So on my first viewing, I hated it.
On my first viewing, I was kind of torn, and we'll get into that. But my first viewing, I was a little torn because I couldn't necessarily tell how I completely felt you know, and everything. It took a second viewing, and I know exactly how I feel about it. You know,
He should have stopped with Clerks too.
I mean, I'm happy
It
he did
was
a
a
trilogy.
nice. I'm not, because Clerks 2 ended on a happy note. You know, Dante got the girl, she's pregnant, and now both Randall and Dante own the convenience video store, and it ended on a happy note, compared to Clerks fucking 3, where his wife dies in a car accident, pregnant.
Are you
And
saying that Clerks 3 is the Empire Strikes Back?
no, because my theory actually doesn't work on these, because my classic Star Wars trilogy, for people out there who don't know, is Star Wars is good, Empire Strikes Back is great, Return of the Jedi is okay.
But what I'm
And
saying is, like, it ends on such a down note, and that was the line in the original Clerks is,
no, because you can't flip it. You can't do that. So if you have we'll say the original Mad Max movies, Mad Max is good, Road Warrior is great, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is okay. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is good, Spider-Man 2 is great, Spider-Man 3 is okay. It follows this trilogy pattern, because everybody thought the first film would bomb, like the studios think the first film will bomb. The second film, they let the filmmaker do whatever they want, and normally it's for the better in most cases. And in the third film, it's complete studio interference of why it's not as good. So the Clerks trilogy doesn't work, because then that means that the best one, Clerks, is okay. Clerks 2 would be Empire Strikes Back, which is not. And then Clerks 3 would be Return of the Jedi. And it's not good at all. Not really good.
No, I feel like you might be right about because, you know, you said it's okay, but you don't, but now you're saying Clerks 3, I guess, is not even good. But I'm saying, I mean, I thought honestly, I enjoyed it. I don't know. It was just my thing.
I think it's a complete step backwards from what. Okay, so you've heard me say this, so I'll say this for people out there that are watching this. I think that there is something very mentally wrong with Kevin Smith, and I think a lot of that started kind of maybe with Cop Out, with how Bruce Willis treated him and his thoughts on Bruce Willis, how the film completely tanked, how it really was. I mean, I guess you could say Mallrats was his first like studio film, but I guess this would be kind of his second or big studio film, and it tanked. And I think that did something to him. And I think the stuff with Harvey Weinstein, and I don't care what Smith says, Tarantino says, Ben Affleck says, I don't care. They all knew what was going on. There were books written about Miramax and Harvey Weinstein. We all knew it. I mean, nobody knew what was going on. So they all knew what was going on. Smith felt so bad that after Weinstein was convicted, that he said any movie that he made with him, all that money would then go to like women abuse, like support groups and stuff, that, you know, because he felt so bad. Dude, you knew what was going on. Just like all the women who didn't speak up when the whole Harvey Weinstein was going on knew what was doing, but they're not going to say anything, you know, because he got them Academy Awards. So
it's
everybody
not just that.
knew.
I think it's because like people feared him. People
They
feared Harvey.
did, but you can say today, you know, that movie She Said, which is about the whole Weinstein thing, totally tanked at the box office. And
I didn't see it, but I didn't know it was about that. Like,
yeah, and Weinstein, and trust me, I don't like Weinstein. I've never liked Weinstein. But he, from his jail cell, was able to do an interview about the movie and laugh at it, you know, from his cell.
yeah.
So it's like, so I think that had a lot to do with him. I think his heart attack had a lot to do with it.
Well, his heart attack had a lot to do with this movie too, and
well, it does. But I think that
know.
there's like a combination of 5 things that, and now, and I even told you, Google Kevin Smith cries. There are thousands of pictures of him fucking crying. I mean, all they have to do is release a Star Wars trailer and he's crying. I mean,
He
everything he
is very
tries
emotional.
to,
He also
he's
smokes
an
a lot of
idiot.
pot.
There is something mentally wrong with him,
Looks like
which,
maybe he smoked too much
yeah,
pot.
and we can
You know.
thank, Seth Rogen for getting him into pot. So,
Oh no. He was in a pot way before then. I
he
think.
was in a pot way before then. But I did just watch something that talked a lot about Zach and Mary and how Kevin Smith was more into smoking and just cigarettes, and Seth got him to smoke more pot. And of course that was one of Bruce Willis's big complaints on Cop Out, was that that Smith was always high. And of course Bruce Willis is professional and Smith was not, according to Bruce Willis. According to Smith, Bruce Willis was just an asshole and you should never work with your heroes. But I think that there is something mentally wrong with this guy, that he is stuck in one time frame, and he looks sickly with how much weight he has lost, and he's unpleasant to look at on screen.
I don't think so.
I totally think so. Even Jay, with his fake teeth, because all of his teeth were rotted from doing meth, and when he had the money, he got all of his teeth replaced. He now kind of talks like this. He can't talk normally. He does everything like they're fake teeth. And you just pull them right out or whatever, like old people teeth, dentures. And so plus Jason Mewes just isn't an actor anyways. I don't think that he's
I mean, I don't agree with that. I've liked him. I enjoy him on screen, and I've seen his movies. Like he made a movie called Method into the Madness or something, Method in the Madness, and it's actually directed by Jason Mewes. Like he directed his own movie, and I mean, fucking he's actually a lot. I think when he plays Jay, it gets a little bit way more slapsticky these days than it used to be. Like Jay and Silent Bob was Strike Back was slapsticky, but it got like Reboot was, to me, it just got to the point where the courtroom scene with Justin Long, who I love, but like things like that, and them getting arrested and them yelling all, is overacting. I was just like, oh, what?
Yeah, I've seen Reboot once and I hated it, and I don't know, maybe it kind of takes me 2 times with a Kevin Smith film to like it.
Right.
On my second viewing of Clerks 3, I didn't hate it as much as I did, but maybe that's just because I know what to expect, so maybe I need to rewatch Reboot. But I think, and Smith has said that he's really worried, like his greatest nightmare is becoming irrelevant. Dude, you've been irrelevant for a while.
I don't think so.
I absolutely think so. Totally. He is not. I mean,
I don't think so, just because I'm always wondering what he's doing next. So like he might not be irrelevant to me. And I don't know. He's still constantly working. So,
well, I mean, there are bands out there that keep making albums even though nobody buys them.
I mean, I know a lot of people who buy his movies and watch their movies. I don't know.
I do not, and a lot of them are just because they're not funny anymore. One of the greatest things he ever did was An Evening with Kevin Smith. I've seen that like 5 times. I could just let that
Probably
play
more
while
than that for me.
Yeah, I could just let it play while I'm doing stuff.
Like usually, I used to fall asleep to it.
Well, why was it that boring?
No, but it was like nice to hear. Like I honestly, I love his commentaries. I love when he speaks and does his stuff. I went to see him one time when he did like An Evening with Kevin, thing, and one of my friends and I went up there. We got to meet him afterwards, which I'd already met him before, and he's one of the like sweetest directors. Like he will sign stuff for free. He will take pictures with you. He will, he's just always so sweet. Of course, if you go to a convention, you probably got to pay, all that stuff. But if you just catch him out, he's just very happy and gracious, to have these fans. And, I honestly, I've read one review where somebody was talking about the ending to Clerks, and we'll get to that. But oh, by the way, this will be a spoiler thing. Just letting
Oh yeah,
everybody know. If you
lots
have
of
not
spoilers.
seen,
It's been
if you
out
have
long
not seen
enough.
Clerks
Yeah.
3, do not listen anymore if you do not
Yeah,
want to be
yeah,
spoiler,
yeah,
because we are gonna, we haven't yet, but we're going to be spoiling it.
yeah. Yeah,
But no,
this is mostly mostly looking at Clerks 3, but it's all of Kevin Smith
look,
kind of in general.
you would
So
probably say this because you think he's like stuck in the past kind of thing.
absolutely.
And you know, the newest Quick Stops one has has a comic where Randall and Brody, who are cousins, are going to cousin Walter's funeral, you know, and everything. The one who's tried to who died trying to suck his own dick. And there's, you know, some stuff with that. And I mean, I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted.
It's a brand
you
new
know?
comic book talking about something that happened like 28
I
years
know,
ago.
and it's exactly what like Marvel does in a way, where they will give you like old stuff that's part of like, you know, stuff that happened that you just missed, you know, earlier. I like that stuff.
I'm going to disagree with that, but that's because you're making, you know, a series of movies where some of the movies take place back when, some of them take place present day, some of them take place in the middle, and they kind of link them all together, but they're always
all links up together
and up to date. You know,
yeah.
Clerks 3, why would you be making a movie where they're discussing Star Wars? I'm sorry, because it's not relevant.
Star Wars is not relevant.
Listen. The whole thing about in the original Clerks of them talking about the contractors building the Death Star is hilarious. Why is it hilarious? Because at the time there were only the original movies. The prequels had not come out yet or anything. So that's all you had to talk about. You could talk about that for 20 years because that's the only thing to talk about. But now Clerks 3 comes out and he's making a movie in 2022 or 2021, whenever this was shot. And they're adding in, and Don Tate says, "Oh yeah, you should add in that a scene of the guy talking about them building the Death Star." Why wouldn't you talk about Mandalorian? Why wouldn't you talk about the prequels? Why wouldn't you talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Because that's what happened to them back in '93.
And why is that interesting?
Because that's, I mean, because to them
it's not interesting because nobody cares anymore about that. It's funny when you watch Clerks, especially if you know what's going on with Clerks, but it's not. I mean, shit. If he's going to reference stuff, then they should talk about, since Kevin Smith loves The Last Jedi, which is the most divisive Star Wars movie ever made, then sit there and talk about, you know, Last Jedi. Why are you bringing up stuff like somebody looking at eggs to find the perfect egg is fine because, okay, that's timeless. Anybody could do that at any time. But you're dating yourself instantly, like way dating yourself. Nobody cares.
I don't know.
I mean, it shows.
But see, the whole idea was that, and I guess if you listen, did you watch the whole thing up to the credits, like end credits?
Yeah, and Smith talks during the credits. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end, right? And he's kind of talking about how like Randall used that movie and he got super famous, right? You know, because that's exactly what happened to Kevin Smith, right? Because even though it's funny, Dante is Kevin Smith in a way, right? But I guess
he's both.
Dante and Randall both. He's both.
Yeah.
You know, he's that, but really Brian Johnson is Randall, you know. His buddy Brian Johnson was Randall. He more based Dante on himself. I think there was even in the original Clerks. But see, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. So what you're saying is like, you know, when he originally did Clerks, he was doing something different and new, right? Nobody had done pop culture talky stuff like that. Like nobody really, you know, that wasn't what was going on. Even Tarantino might be like counted in there, but he wasn't.
Well, like his whole Madonna speech.
Yeah, his whole Madonna speech.
Yeah, in Reservoir Dogs, like
yeah, but it was different. It was different. It wasn't what the nerds are looking for. Like his was more, Tarantino was more hip, Smith was more, I'm going to cater to my nerd friends because that's what I know. I know comics, I know Star Wars, and I'm going to talk about how the Death Star and the contractors working on the Death Star, blah, blah, blah. And that made sense for that time. And yeah,
And that
you're
was
right.
funny.
It does not make sense for him now. It just only made sense for the idea that he does say, remember that scene? Remember that time we did that? Let's put that in the movie.
But
and
so
Dante should have said no, but it all led up to the ending where, you got to see the clips and everything and all that stuff, which I'm sure you'll get to later. But like you get to, kind of get to see all of these customers and these things happening. And it works for,
no, it works for the purpose of what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
But it always annoys me in movies and TV shows and everything where they go, wow, remember a year ago? And then it only cuts to scenes that we've already seen.
Did you ever see the Clerks cartoon?
I've seen a couple episodes.
Did you see the second episode where like it was a clip show? So in the original, 6 episodes or whatever, the first episode was all about like this one guy taking over, blah, 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 doing all this stuff. Then the second episode was a clip show of all of that we've already seen from the first episode. That was so
that could be funny. Yeah.
That was funny. That was clever.
See, but right. So with Randall writing the script, why are you only remembering things from 2 movies? Like, so your life, like everything from Clerks, in between Clerks and Clerks 2, did not exist. I guess they did bring in some of the animated stuff, but it's like, okay, so everything from Clerks 2 to Clerks 3, nothing existed.
Right.
Like they don't have anything that they could make to put into his film that happened that we didn't see.
So I liked stuff that, obvious references to the old films and everything, but like things that you wouldn't have picked up because like you said, you haven't really seen the cartoon. There was a line,
like Cody is in it, and I know, some other stuff. Yeah.
Who?
Cody
London? No, he's not in that. I don't think.
He's in Clerks 3.
Oh yeah, he's in Clerks 3. I'm saying in the cartoon. I'm talking about the cartoon real quick. But there's a line.
I thought he was in the cartoon.
Who?
Cody.
Coey, by the way, it's Coey, not Cody.
I don't know. I thought it was spelled Cody. Cody.
Coey London? No. Coey London, who's the guy who shoots him at the end of Clerks. Is that what you're saying? Who are you saying, Cody?
No, he's like a black guy and he's in the animated series.
I don't remember that. But anyway, he wasn't in Clerks 3. Who was he in Clerks 3?
I believe he was one of the guys that was auditioning.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. That I'm like, I'm okay, maybe. But what I'm talking about is like in the Clerks animated, there's this bit where they walk into the freezer, right? The scene where he pulls him into the freezer when he's drunk in Clerks 3. Yeah. There's a scene where they get locked in the freezer and they say a line where you go, "This is cold, like hot cold," which was reference to Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and everything. And I laughed because for a split second they did that. They put that little reference in for all the Clerks animated fans and stuff, which
which is fine. Shit. I mean, I enjoyed most of the references. I mean, I like that they got a lot of the people back. I like that. But I think Kevin, he relies way too much on fucking Star Wars, man. Not everything is Star Wars, dude.
Well, it's kind of what helped, like, because that stuff in the first Clerks really did help him like have a thing, like I'm the guy who mentions political jokes and you know what I mean, and has funny things with Star Wars. And Mallrats, it was what was it? There was something like him doing the Jedi mind trick, and in Chasing Amy, it was them discussing Darth Vader, Return of the Jedi being very white supremacist stuff, you know, like it was all about whites.
Well, yeah,
taking on the black.
underneath the black helmet, it was a white guy. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
stuff. And so
which was funny. I actually
which he
thought that
did,
stuff
he
was
was
funny.
funny. But that was also, you're right, that was like prequels and stuff. So all they could talk about was the first original trilogy. So I mean, and nowadays, but in Clerks 2, they didn't mention, oh, they did. They said Jar Jar, you know, and stuff, and made references to Jar Jar and stuff like that. So, and in this one, they sort of mentioned Mandalorian a little bit.
Oh my god, all that stuff with the doctor. Why is she dressed like a witch? And she's like, "Oh, I just came back from cosplay or whatever." Oh my god,
I,
why? Why is she a witch? It serves
I think,
no.
okay, so I have
There's
a
no
theory on that.
purpose.
I have a theory on that, and I'm gonna listen to the commentary track and stuff. Maybe he'll explain in the commentary. But at the end of Clerks 3, I watched all the way to the credits, and he has a special thanks, right? And he special thanked Dr. Lindheim or whatever, you know, and said, you know, thank you for saving my life or something, you know, or giving me a life to save, something like that, you know. And I read that and I was like, shit. So there was a real Dr. Lindheim. Maybe because that person actually did that, because a lot of it seems very much like a real situation, except for him being afraid to cut his, maybe Kevin Smith
Dick
was
jokes.
very,
Dick jokes.
right. It was a
Yay,
dick
dick
joke. It was a
jokes
dick
in
joke.
2022. Yay, dick jokes.
Well, I mean, people
Fart
still laugh
jokes.
at those. People laugh at dick and fart
If
jokes.
you're 12,
and that's what he caters to, the fans that like
he
that
doesn't.
shit.
The films are.
Yeah.
But
So
why is
anyway,
she a witch?
what? Why is she
Why
a
is she
witch?
a
Because I think
witch?
that's what she was. The original
Oh,
lady or whatever that saved his life probably was coming from a thing. That's my theory. That's my theory, that actually happened in real life, and he put that into the movie for Dante. That's the
so
only thing, the only reason that I think that would exist, because that was very out of the blue and weird, for it. So I don't know.
yeah, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, does this take place at Halloween or something? Like, why is she a
Yeah.
witch? And then
And
all this stuff with the small dick, all this stuff with Jason Long was not funny.
Justin
Not
Long, yeah.
Justin Long,
I
not funny at all. Not
was kind of
funny.
disappointed by him, because like I usually like his like little cameo characters. Like even I think he was the lawyer in Reboot and stuff. I liked him. I thought he was funny. I've always enjoyed him as an actor.
He's a good actor.
And I've always enjoyed him in cameos on his stuff. Like he was in he was a I think he was a cameo, and yeah, he had a cameo in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. That was like their first time ever working together. And then he put him in Tusk, as the lead, or whatever, which I thought he did a fantastic job in that too. So I like.
I mean,
Justin
he's good.
Long.
He's good in Barbarian, and he's a good actor. So
Yeah.
it's. But if you're,
but
if you're going,
it was probably my least favorite character he's ever played in a Kevin Smith cameo, or even probably in his whole career. I mean, aside from being in Jeepers Creepers, which just hate that movie, period, in that
I
franchise.
like all four of them. I don't care.
I will probably watch the new one just because, even though I know somebody worked on it, so I feel like I should probably at least watch it.
Well, I mean, don't, blacklist.
I'm not going to go in with high
director.
expectations.
Don't, people should not apply what the director Victor Salva did on, to the new one, because he's not involved in it at all. But and I've liked Justin Long in Jeepers Creepers, and he's got the cameo in part 2. But it's and they even make fun of it in Clerks 3, where Randall stops Dante because he forgot to put an "and" in his line, and they have to do it word for word, because he's a script Nazi, and you see Silent Bob in the back go like that, because we've heard many times from Ben Affleck that if you mess up one word, you have to go back and redo it, so that means all this bad dialogue, all the bad jokes, everything that is horrible in this is 100% Kevin Smith. So there is no ad-libbing. You can't blame an actor. Maybe the audition scenes might be a little ad-lib because Ben Affleck does go on a little bit. So
I think you let
maybe,
Ben Affleck have some fun with that,
yeah, I
especially with
think,
the Boston John stuff or whatever.
yeah. So
Which
maybe
I just
there,
thought like
but
it kind of I was kind of disappointed that like because it goes back to uh it goes back to even like Clerks 2 had Ben Affleck had a cameo in that where he just has like one line in the movie or something, you know. And I was just kind of disappointed. Like, I mean, I understand like it's your friend and everything and everything, but I'm like, oh, well, did that add anything to the movie? Did
well,
that?
no, Ben Affleck has said, and I don't remember some of the movies, like I don't remember, like Jersey Girl, but Ben Affleck has said that he needs to be in every Kevin Smith movie, and the only one he
There was a
hasn't
time
been
where
in
he
was
wasn't,
Clerks.
and a lot of that was because I think at some point they kind of had a somewhat of a falling out, which I don't really know the any details on, so I can't, you know, like I don't want to feel like I'm starting any kind of rumors, but I do know that they had a little bit of a falling out, but then reboot they came back. You know, he came back for reboot
Well,
and
for
everything.
Clerks 2, I think Smith just said that it was conflict in scheduling, that they were both doing movies at the same time, and
Yeah,
Ben was able to come over, and I think it's three lines that when they're inside movies that he says, but it was like one day, and he's like, yeah, I'm not shooting my movie on Saturday and Sunday, so I'll fly out, we'll do this one scene, and then I could fly back. And I'm guessing maybe it was probably the same thing with Clerks 3, that he's just filming, he's just busy, and plus he doesn't
right.
really have a place in Clerks 3.
And
I
yeah,
mean,
and
I
so
mean,
he
who
had to
who would
do
he
the
who would he
do the
play?
audition stuff. Like, my friend and I were watching it, and we were wondering who the one girl was that was like kind of doing some singing and everything. There's another
Oh
guy that
yeah,
was
yeah,
doing singing,
yeah. She's
and
cute.
those
She's
were
got like the brown
actual
shirt.
people from Supergirl. So he had got Melissa Benoist. I can't say her name real well, but from the girl who plays Supergirl to do that part, and then her husband Chris Wood did the singing guy basically. Both of them were like doing some kind of stuff, so it feels like they were both probably on that day together, and so they kind of did similar, you know. Then you got Sarah Michelle Gellar, which was really random because she's never worked with him
Yeah,
before.
well, with both of our love for her, I mean that I was happy to see her in there, and
Yeah,
and I'm curious if she's playing herself, since her husband Freddie
Freddie
Prinze
Prinze
Jr.
Jr. said his
was playing
name.
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like, I'm Freddie Prinze Jr. And I love that because it made me think
auditioning
like
for that movie.
maybe he's been hard, you know, saying he's on hard times right now since he hasn't acted in anything. But he hasn't acted in anything, and I've heard an interview with him where he was talking about he hasn't acted in anything because he doesn't want to. Like it's not
He
he's
makes
happy being like a stay-at-home dad
Well,
basically.
he makes a shitload of money doing animation voices.
And he does a shit ton of money doing wrestling stuff. He's into wrestling and
Oh,
everything
that
too.
yeah, that I don't know.
So,
I know,
you
but I
know,
know about him doing the voices for
yeah,
you
he does a
know
lot of voices.
yeah, and I think Geller does the same thing, that she does also
Yeah.
a lot of voices now. So it's yeah, I think their disappointments in Hollywood and parts that they were getting, just propelled them to just be more of regular people, but they still do the voices and things like that. So
Once again, I want to watch these documentaries and these and this commentary that's on the disc, you know, because what I want to know is really like the stuff about the auditions, you know, like did he just ask these people to come do you know,
I
come
think
do
so.
it,
They're
or were
probably
they
all
in
friends.
town? I mean, or they weren't, because I don't think he shot any of the audition stuff in Jersey. I think they shot it in like California, you know, or whatever. But because I don't think they flew, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Danny Trejo and all of them. They just probably did it out in LA because all it
Yeah,
was
yeah, I could see. Yeah,
you know, all it was a them at a Playhouse or whatever. So they didn't
Which
have to have
is
it.
the Playhouse that he did the Clerks auditions in, the original Clerks audition.
But was it really, or was it a set that looked like it?
The
I wonder that.
outside of it
Yeah.
is the place. Inside that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
that could
wondering. I
be.
think that
Yeah.
inside was LA, the outside. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were all in New York at that time, or New Jersey, area, and they could go in there and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's what I want to find out,
yeah, he might have shot out an email or whatever it is to like 20 friends of his, and 10 of them were able to do it, and that's what we got.
Yeah.
So it's because I'll say that I really, as much as I love Clerks, and I if somebody said, well, what film should I watch of Kevin Smith? I haven't watched anything. I would say watch Clerks, even though I think Dogma is his best movie. I think it's his,
I would say Mallrats, but that was my introduction.
Mallrats would probably be the second one that I would say. But Clerks 2, and we've talked about this, I hated it when I first saw it because he was so out of date. He could not at all where he was in his life relate to somebody who works in a fast food restaurant. And so that's it's almost like with Howard Stern when he divorced his wife and then started dating a model. He lost a lot of his audience because all those people who thought Howard was just a normal guy who had a wife and would go downstairs and jerk off in his basement and stuff, which he talked about, they could relate to him. But all of a sudden, once you're now Howard Stern superstar and you're dating a model and hanging out with like John Stamos and Rebecca Romaine Stamos and all that, now you can't relate to him.
Right.
And he did lose some of his audience. And I feel the same way with Kevin Smith it's difficult to go back because once you own your own store, you have your own podcast, you have your own series. Like
he's got a whole podcast. It's called Smodcastle, and it's actually right next to Quick Stop. And it's a whole castle of or not castle because it's not really a castle, but it's like a whole place that does podcast stuff, and I think that's amazing. I actually, so I'm thinking of going up to Red Bank and Leonardo and whatnot in April or May of next year, and just seeing the spots again because I've been there before. But I wanna go refresh myself and with some friends and check that out. So
yeah, that'd be fun to go check out. But but anyways, so with Clerks 2, so when I saw it, I really disliked it. Plus I don't think that Rosario Dawson would go for somebody like Dante. And I found it funny
they kind of make jokes about that a lot.
Yeah, because she is way out of his league. And she's a great actress and she's super hot and she seems really cool. There's some great stuff of her that was in Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects that got cut, and they show some behind the scenes stuff and she's hilarious in them. And so I just I'm sorry, I can't relate to this, and I still work retail, and I just didn't like it. But on the Clerks 2 DVD, there's that documentary about making the film and how Jersey Girl affected him and why he wanted to go back to Clerks 2. It was like a 1-hour documentary, I think, and it's
called Back to the Well.
Okay, and it completely changed my perspective on Clerks 2, and now I like the movie. And I still don't want to watch Jersey Girl again, but
maybe you'll want to watch the documentary that they did for Clerks 3.
I mean, it's possible. Maybe that could change my mind a little bit on things, but
because I think that's the thing. I think what you're only seeing the movie from this perspective of the viewer watching the movie, right?
Well, that's
you don't have any other. You don't know much about anything else. You don't have any insight on why Kevin Smith did this stuff. In fact, you've got theories and you've got ideas of what's going on with his life, but maybe he'll say something, in those documentaries that'll change your mind on him and what's going on. Now, it might not change your mind completely on the movie because the movie does sort of it takes a different turn than what I like. I was so what made me torn, and I guess we'll get into it real quick right now because I'm just, you
Yeah,
know,
whatever you want to talk about.
but the thing that tore me was it was okay. So it starts off basically with the heart attack, with the Randall having a heart attack and everything pretty quickly, like about 10 minutes in, right?
Right.
You get the heart attack. And then it goes into the second act when he decides, I'm going to make a movie, right? And then he starts making the movie. And throughout the whole thing, he's saying, I'm making the story of my life. And Dante is like, fuck, dude, this is my life. Like you're using my stories, not just yours. It's like our life, together and everything. But you're calling it just your life. You're so selfish. You're so egotistical and everything. But you're pretty much. And I wonder if any of that was actually said to him when he was making Clerks, because there was some stuff like Brian Johnson said stuff that got into the original Clerks, and I wonder if like Brian Johnson ever yelled at him and said, "Dude, you're using my story. This is my life. You're putting it into the movie," and so
it's a possibility, especially when it says written by Kevin Smith, and
right.
like,
And then he's all like, "This is my life, man. This is what happened to me," and
well,
everything.
that was the fallout between Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn.
Right.
Is that Favreau took all the credit for all the dialogue in Swingers, and Vince Vaughn is like, wait, that was my dialogue. That was me. I was quoting me.
Right.
And it took Favreau a long time it's suddenly in interviews to go, oh yeah, that was all Vince Vaughn. And then they made up and did that movie Made. But
Right.
yeah, as I'm sure, because who knows, that also could have been an argument with, him falling out with a lot of these guys with both Clerks guys,
Well, it's funny because like what is it? Marilyn Gigalotti, who comes back as Veronica, which I just was so happy to see her again because I missed her in
what
Clerks
a
2. Like,
horrible scene that was. Oh
oh,
my
when she
God.
came in and yelled though.
Well, I don't mind the
I liked
yelling,
it. I
but her and Dante fuck in the car
I thought that
so
was funny.
much,
The Range
so
Rover
much for his
sleepover.
wife.
I don't know.
Wow, I guess he got over his wife for 10 minutes. The one that
He
he's,
needed that. I mean,
well, that's never said. But the thing is, since he's, feels so horrible about his wife and his wife, and his life
I
stopped.
know, but he like
Literally, like if you look at the date that she dies to Clerks 2, it's like immediately,
right.
right after Clerks 2. So they barely got any time together. He knocked her up, and then she dies, and he's been mourning for her ever since. And then all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, you want to fuck?" And then they fuck.
But
That doesn't say
they've
a
had
lot
this
about
relationship. I
Dante.
mean, she just got a divorce. Her character got a divorce. That stuff I did not mind at all. I thought it was kind of funny and like it was like, okay, she get, like they're doing it again. They're getting back at it. So it did not bother me. It was really nice also seeing her do scenes like, remember the scene where he's in the video store or whatever telling her that Dante did this stuff or whatever. And then Jason walks into the camera. It's like, get out of here, right? Like, we're shooting
Yeah.
a scene here, It was really nice seeing her again in these things. Like, I like Marilyn Gigalotti. Like, I adore her, I've met her. I always wanted her to be back, as Veronica, see her again as Veronica. And who knows? If they do a Clerks 4, which I don't think they will, but
Kevin Smith says he wants to make more, not
if
just
he
one, but
does,
more.
I'd like to see her, back, and all the other characters. But the thing is with Clerks 3, a lot of it's all about making the movie, right? So you get to see those characters. I would like to see another movie where it's just like, what are they up to now? Kind of
Probably
thing.
moaning and groaning and pissing everything away. I mean, how quickly Randall replaces Dante with the cheap version of Silent Bob, who I guess is
Actually, is the cheap version of Jay. because it was a lot, right? It was Elias that he replaced him with.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but the cheap version of Jay. Then, which I didn't know this till I watched one of the reviews. Is Kevin Smith's daughter is dating that guy who
Yeah,
plays the cheap version of
and he was great. And if you ever seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, he was amazing in
no,
that.
no.
I just
I hated all the stuff with them. Hated
I
all of it.
originally when I first watched it, I hated all of Elias and I still am sort of not a big fan of like him switching makeup every single
No,
scene.
if
I
you
was
would
like,
have
that
done it
just got annoying.
once, that's fine. I find the bickering of him and Randall with the whole religion thing to be funny. And
Right.
then I kind of like the whole thing that he prays to God and God doesn't answer. And then he decides to do the devil and that
And the
saves
devil fixes everything.
yeah,
So
and then how he changes. So okay, so this doesn't take place over one day, but not every scene he needs to be his clothes need
yeah,
to
I
be
know.
changed.
See that's I didn't like that either.
Which
If
in
they
one of these reviews I read from what the guy said is that Harvey Weinstein wanted Kevin Smith in Clerks 2 to do that scene. That he wanted one of the characters to come in like every scene with like a different wardrobe. And Smith's like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. And now he's done it.
hmm, I wonder.
I don't know who it would have been because I don't remember the film well enough, but I
Clerks
guess
2, yeah, but no, I don't know what,
yeah, and he
like,
said
because it'd have
no.
to be like Elias, or it would have to be, which wouldn't make any sense because he's in a uniform, movie's uniform. I don't know. That's weird.
It's there's too many. I mean, you said that the documentary is called what, Going Back to the Well?
Yeah,
That
back to the
there's
well.
way too much of that. Like this to me almost seems like a ripoff of Zack and Mary.
It is sort of very Zack and Mary like.
I mean, they do the auditions, they do all of that. And to me, the something that pisses me off in movies that are made by filmmakers that make films in their films is they don't know how to make films. I'm sorry, I'm micro budget and I know how to make movies. And they never seem to get how to make a movie correctly.
Like,
And
what did they do to fuck this up? Because I thought it looked all right.
one, if you look at the camera that they're using, it looks like it's a film camera without the
Right?
canisters on top.
Okay.
It even has the slot, like the rectangle slot
I think
where the
wasn't it wasn't it probably in it looked like it was in a red camera or something, because a lot of those red cameras actually have those look like added stuff to it. So I think it was a digital camera, you know.
okay,
Um
well maybe I'm wrong on that. To me, it looked like
no,
a
I mean
film
but
camera with the canisters, with the canister part
I don't think they shot it
removed.
in film unless it was that a line in the movie where he said he was going to shoot it on film. I don't think he, you know. Plus, if it were anything, it'd be a 16 millimeter film because that's what they originally shot.
Well, yeah, and in
Clerks.
Clerks 3, some Bob says that the place looks ugly, and that's why they're shooting it in black and white. Well, if
Right,
you're going off of history, that's not why Kevin Smith shot Clerks in black and white. It's because at that time, black and white film was cheapest. So color film was more expensive than black and
right.
white.
Which I mean, but he can't. Yeah, but once again, he's actually doing the one thing that he didn't do for you know for all those older scenes or whatever. But the idea that he couldn't like it doesn't work for today. Like you can't say, I'm gonna shoot this because it's cheaper to shoot in black and white. That won't make any sense.
I think that I think I thought all the Clerk stuff that we saw in black and white, I enjoyed. I enjoyed Kevin Smith's or Silent Bob's 2 dialogue scenes. I like that. But these days with digital cameras, there's adjustments indoor, outdoor, sunny, cloudy. So it's not going to look ugly,
Right.
because you adjust it for like tungsten light, and then and you light it correctly. There weren't really any lighting setups in this, and
Yeah.
there weren't any. Zack and Murray did it worse. I don't really know why they have the microphone attached to a hockey stick when you could ease. I mean, this stuff is so cheap to buy,
Right.
and I guess okay because they play hockey for some reason for no reason at all at the beginning of the movie, which in the first Clerks film was part of the
I haven't
plot.
seen Zack and Miri in so long.
It's bad. It is not a
I kind of
good
remember
movie.
liking the beginning of it and then feeling like once they got to the making of the porno stuff, I just kind of it just sort of
But it goes back to
you know,
nobody cares. Who cares if two friends are fucking? Nobody cares except
yeah,
for the two friends.
and
Nobody cares
even
because you.
then, I almost didn't buy it. I mean, even I don't know.
But let's say it goes up on Pornhub or you porn or something, and it says two friends having sex for the first time. One, how are you going to know that they are two friends?
Because
Because
usually
half of
that's a lie, I guess, right?
yeah, because most of the time
Mm.
it's like mother and son taboo, and they're not mother and son, or it's stepbrother with stepsister. No, they're not. It's all of this stuff isn't real. It's just what they name it.
Right.
So the stuff for Zack and Mary, and plus the film equipment they used in that, I did not understand at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, come
But I
on.
liked, see, the funny thing is, I liked all the coffee shop stuff, and all that. That if they had made a whole movie where it was like about people who worked at a coffee shop, and stuff, which is what Kevin Smith knows, I would have probably liked that movie like a lot better,
Yeah, it just didn't. And it only makes the stars because that's still when I liked Elizabeth Banks, and when I liked Seth Rogen. I don't like him
Seth
as much
Rogen.
anymore, but
I don't mind him. I don't really.
it's all the politics bullshit that I just don't like from these people, and it just makes me not want to watch their films. So because it's and it's kind of the same thing with with Kevin Smith with lying about Masters of the Universe. One, he tore off the He-Man and just called it Masters of the Universe, and then killed off He-Man and made it female centric. And it's just like, oh my God, how many times do we have to fucking see this? Now Willow the series is that way, and Willow is like a, no pun intended, but a small part. And
Right.
and it says I'm tired of this. I do like in Clerks 3, I do think it's funny that one scene where they talk about the Asian like architect.
Wait, I thought Willow wasn't the small dude, right? He
Willow's
had another
Warwick
name.
Davis.
I thought Willow
Willow's
was the
Warwick
kid
Davis.
that he had
Wait,
to.
he was the kid. He was a little kid when he
No,
made the movie. He was like
no,
12.
no, no. He was no, he was. Oh, he was Willow. Okay,
Yeah, he's
fuck.
Willow.
For some reason, I thought he was a little baby that they had to protect or whatever. You know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's I liked that type of stuff, but like I said, so I like the scene of them saying that's racist, calling them like the Asian architect student.
I liked it. I thought that was funny.
That I thought was funny because it matches the times of today.
Right.
And Randall going, well, he was an Asian architect. Well, and he just happens to be Asian.
Right.
So because
Asian design major who happened to be
yeah,
Asian.
yes, exactly. And that's funny to me because that is so today. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Randall, who's a fucking asshole through this entire movie, is just a dick beyond belief. And treats Dante like absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
None of these guys, and I get more that Dante probably wouldn't. How does Randall not know about crowdfunding? How does Randall not know about film equipment? I watched a video before I bought any film equipment. I watched one video on how you could get your entire film kit for under $1,000. And I did it for under $1,000. So these guys don't know YouTube. They don't know crowdfunding. They don't know Amazon or eBay.
And what did they need the $30,000 for?
They one of the reviews, I got a lot of this stuff from the reviews, said that the final amount that Randall says is the amount that they made Clerks for.
Okay, so 27,000 something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
there's so many things that as Kevin Smith as a filmmaker should know, and I don't. It's funny. There's a Family Guy episode, and Quagmire has no idea that the internet exists. Right. And he's like, "Oh, what, that whole dial-up thing that makes the horrible noise?" And Peter's like, "No, you just go onto the internet. There's like thousands and thousands of pictures and videos of porn." And Quagmire's like, "Oh, okay, I'll be right back." And then the next day he comes out with like a huge muscle on his right arm because he's been jerking off for like 2 days. And that's funny. That I get. That
Johnny from Cobra Kai, sort of
Yeah, I
not
mean,
adapting to,
he's
you know,
stuck. He's
he's
stuck
stuck in the 80s.
when he got kicked in the face or got kicked in the chin. That's when he stopped. And
Right.
everything revolved around that year. The music, the movies, the attitude, the drinking was there. Even though I did find it a little weird that, I mean, come on, you're watching TV and you're not going to see anything about the internet. I mean, that's kind of weird.
Well,
But
I think he knew about the internet, but he didn't really go on it because he thought the internet was for nerds and geeks that use a computer, you know,
I could see that
and
coming
stuff.
from him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
So I think
sense.
that was it. But like, see, I get that. And maybe, you know, maybe you can say kind of Kevin Smith stuck in the 90s, you
I
know,
think
or
he is.
whatever.
I think that
And
something happened to him at one point. He got kicked in the chin at one point, and he got stuck in that time period because why would this is the Clerks that I wanted to see. Clerks 3. I wanted to see their happiness after part 2. I
right.
wanted to see Dante have a family. I wanted to see Randall discover the internet and discover digital, cameras, and that he's making movies, that he was such a film fan that he's now out there making his little movies, and to see this happy life that that they now have, and all of that came from them, maybe coming back to the video store and buying it and
I
being
would have loved to see
inspired.
that too. Because I was thinking about it too. I thought about how I would have wanted it, you know, to be as a fan, and I would have wanted it to be uh, where maybe Dante could have the heart attack to begin with, right? Dante, not Randall, but Dante has a heart attack and realizes life is too short. So he and Becky and his kid, and because if you watch Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Jay has a kid, right? Who at the end of the movie you see Harley's character is the you might not realize it. I don't know if you did or not, but in the funeral scene for Dante, uh Harley is right next to Jay, right? And they're father and daughter in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot,
Okay.
you know. So like when she says something like, "What are butt thieves?" and Jay's like, "Oh," you know,
Oh yeah.
right? Which I honestly I hated that joke because they fucking dragged that to the ground. So
Oh
it
my
kind of
god.
annoyed me,
But in
you know.
almost every Kevin Smith film, there's that running gag and kind of like the whole thing of like you're making a porno.
You're making a porno. They did that like
Is that and
three or
then
four times.
in Mallrats, it was like having sex in a Volkswagen?
But that actually, you know what? It's funny because that never bothered me. I always thought that was funny.
It's because they only
Um,
do it like 3 times.
yeah, but they only did this one three times, but they did th two of them three times, and it got annoying when I'm like, okay, because they did was the butt thieves thing with Randall, then one with Dante, and then one at the funeral, you know. So
I think
um,
sometimes just people think stuff is funny when it's not. Like Tim Burton when he did Dark Shadows, Johnny Depp as Barnabas is at one point talking about holding a party. And he has an entire thing about balls, big balls. His balls were big when he used to have parties. Man, his balls were great. Everybody went to his balls. And it was
yeah,
this long, like 2 minute scene of him talking about balls. And it's like, oh, I see, I get it now. He's talking about a party, but it sounds like his balls. Oh,
right.
that's funny. That's yeah, that's thank
That didn't
you.
make me laugh, but all
No,
right.
and it's like you would think from somebody like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp that they would be more sophisticated than that, more adult.
I don't know. I don't
I
know.
mean,
Johnny, come on.
I
But
I don't see him even with all of his garb on and smoking, and I don't see him really doing ball jokes. But I mean, I guess
right.
somebody thought it was funny and they added it in. But it's yeah, Smith just he's constantly going back to that well over and over and over and over again,
But
and it's like it
look,
doesn't.
it works for me, does not work for you because I am one of those people who when Mallrats came out, right? Like when I first saw Mallrats, because I'll tell you, I remember exactly the day I discovered Mallrats because I was over at my friend's house, right? we're hanging out, and his mom was yelling at him about something. And so they were dealing with some stuff going on. And I was just like, I went over to his brother and I said, "What are you watching?" He goes, "Mallrats." I was like, "What's that?" And he was like, "It's just this new movie." And I was like, "Do you mind if I watch it with you?" And he was like, "Sure." And I was like, "This movie is hilarious." Like it was 90, I want to say 96. It was right before I went to high school, and everything. And I
You're
was like,
so young.
I know, sounds young
To be your
now,
age
but
again.
I
Wow.
know. But yeah, but I like was like, like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And then I saw, oh, if you want to see, if you like Jay and Silent Bob in there, you should see him in Clerks. There's like some kind of message about it. So I was like, let me go check out Clerks. And so I went to, I rented Clerks, and I watched that the next day, and I was like, oh, there's more of this, like this world of Jay and Silent Bob and these characters and everything. And then I watched Chasing Amy, because that came out like the next year. And I was like, and then I discovered viewaskew.com and started becoming, like even bigger nerd, and got this from there, from them and everything, and just fucking loved it. And then and I collected all the comics. So I have them somewhere. They're in my comic collection. And I would collect everything, and I would read everything. I knew so much about Kevin's like world, like the View Universe stuff. I might have forgotten a few things, but the commentaries help, and everything. And then I so I was really excited to see Clerks 3, because uh it was the trilogy, right? Like it's the and now it's sort of like it's gonna be, if they do more, if he does more, uh that'll be interesting to see, because really each time it is like pulling teeth with Jeff Anderson, who I met
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
He's a
I've heard
nice
he's
guy.
got a lot. They got a lot of problems together, I guess, from what I've.
Well, no, the first time, from what I remember hearing, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but from what I've understood, Jeff and Kevin had sort of a falling out after Clerks, because as I saw in a Q&A, somebody asked him about it, and Jeff said, "Well, I asked for more money because it was going to Sundance, right? I thought Miramax would pay me more money for my stuff, right? For doing this stuff." And nope, and then I guess he brought it up to Kevin, and Kevin and him kind of had an issue, and stuff. So they had a falling out. And plus, Jeff was never an actor, you know. That scene in Clerks 3 where Jay's like, "You haven't even finished yet?" You know? That was actually Jeff who said that to him, you know. Jeff actually said, "Wait, you're still making that movie that we did? Like, why isn't that done yet?" Right? And
Yeah, I guess
whatnot.
yeah.
And
None of these guys were. Yeah, no, I heard about the money issues. There was also like Jeff Anderson had to drive out to Hollywood to audition for his role in the Clerks TV show that never got picked up. They just made the pilot, and I
oh yeah, and
remember.
Jim Brewer got his part pretty much.
Oh, that yeah. I'm not sure who got it. I've never seen it, but I
I
remember there
saw
was a.
it's on YouTube for anybody who's interested in seeing it. It
Oh,
is
okay.
awful. It
I
is
wouldn't doubt it.
terrible. It has maybe one or two funny lines in it, because if you can do
Jim
a whole
Brewer's not
30
funny, so
minutes, and Jim Brewer at that time in 90, I want to say 95 or whatever, when that came out, or when that was made, maybe it was 94 even. He was right about to go to Saturday Night Live, I think. Like, I don't think he had even gone to Saturday Night Live yet. And so he was hilarious. He was great. But it did not save the fact that whoever wrote that pilot script for the Clerks, whatever, did not care about anything about actual Clerks, the stuff. They just made, and it did not look like the Quick Stop. They made it look like 7-Eleven or whatever. You know what I mean? It looked crap. It looked like trash for it. So it was not, but they did have a Quick Stop in an RST kind of thing. going. Which
Didn't they also do a Mallrats pilot?
I don't think so.
I think I think, or at least they were going to.
They were going to at one point.
But
They
I
were
always,
talking about it.
yeah. I mean, I mean, with me with Kevin Smith is we saw it on VHS because a friend of ours, Anthony, who's now a DP, he worked in a like a video store and was so well Laserdisc store, and I think we either saw it on VHS, probably from
Which were
Blockbuster or
Clerks?
Clerks, yeah. And then we saw Mallrats in the theater, and we just kept going to see. We saw Chasing Amy in the theater, and we went, all of that. And then when Mallrats came out on Laserdisc and had all the deleted footage was put on as bonus features, and so we were really into Kevin Smith at one time. There were like 3 or 4 of us that were watching anything we get our hands on, including the stuff that he just produced, like Drawing Flies. And then
Drawing Flies wasn't the greatest, but it was entertaining. Like I like that movie.
I remember listening to the audio commentary, and like the 2 young guys that made the film are silent.
Yeah, Malcolm and Matthew.
Yeah, I guess. And they're silent through the audio commentary. And Kevin Smith goes, guys, stop watching your movie and start talking about it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember. And then of course the clown movie that he
Vulgar,
did.
yeah. Which
Vulgar.
Honestly, when I saw Brian O'Halloran's breakdown at the end of this movie, it sort of reminded me of his character in Vulgar, where he's so angry at one point. And because I had just watched that sort of recently for What the Fuck Friday. And so it was so weird to sort of see him saying these lines as Dante, but reminding me of the character from that in a way, like, because it's so dramatic, of a scene where he's yelling at him drunk and saying, how dare you? Which that was a thing in all the Clerks movies. At the end of Clerks 1, he has that big blow up at him. Part 2, they have that big blow up at the jail. And then this one, he has the blow up that causes the heart attack and he dies, or whatever. He gets a heart attack and eventually dies.
He's the only one that has some sort of arc. And I
Right.
do, and I have to admit for the actor that I think his best scenes are the dramatic scenes.
Yeah. Well, he's a theater actor, first, like before he became a film actor,
I mean, there are like the scene where he does, right before he gets his heart attack. I think he does a great job. And actually, I think both of them do a good job going back and forth. The scene that's in the cemetery, I think, is one of the worst scenes ever.
I don't
know.
Weird.
Why would you have a fantasy about your dead wife coming back and she talks about fucking other guys?
Well,
that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't the fantasy be about him fucking her?
That stuff was Kevin kind of riffing on, I guess, stuff, but like I really liked
Malcolm XX.
I really liked Rosario Dawson's stuff about how he needed to dream bigger, he needed to live his life, stop, like thinking about her, move on, and stuff. So I enjoyed all that. I the other stuff was just kind of his humor, that he likes to put in there.
But that's not funny. It's not. I mean, I can tell you, I've never had, I've never been married or whatever, but I can guarantee you that my friends that are married, if one of them died, I don't think that they'd be having a dream about their significant other fucking people up in heaven. It's such a bizarre thing. Why not just have him there stuck in a particular period? And she's like, look, you got to move on, like she did say, but you got to let go of me. You have to move on. We will see each other at another time. Like if they are religious, because Dante has the crucifix on, then, or the cross, it's not crucifix, but the cross, then, okay, fine. Have her say, we're going to meet in heaven. We're going to be there one day. You'll see, you'll see our daughter. She's wonderful. Why not say all that? Why not make it tear jerking? Make people cry. Instead, it's, I'm fucking George Washington Carver.
Yeah, because I like peanut butter. I think
yeah.
That's what she said. But see, that made you laugh a little bit. I mean, It was
Well, it wasn't.
silly.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to say that, but
Right, but that
that
was
was
what she said. I thought that was kind of funny. There was some
no.
parts in it that actually made me laugh in that, but like you're right. Yeah, it is a little weird. Why the hell would she be like, why would he be fascinated? But she even says that, like, why am I here? Like, why are you talking to me like this? You should be, fantasizing about something bigger, better than me, or whatever. And
But
she
why?
even says, dream bigger. She tells him, she kind of inspires him a little bit.
But
And
doesn't it
he,
cheapen his wife and his love for her by saying, "Oh, look, I went up and I fucked all these guys in heaven"? I mean, it just so she's a slut angel. I don't.
yeah,
That's not
she
funny.
was ass to mouth. Yeah, I
That's
get that
not
ass
good.
to mouth stuff from
That's
Clerks
not.
too.
I mean, as long as you're washed, okay. Just clean there first. But it's
I don't
just
know. Do you
get
have
some
to
soap
wash
in
in
it.
heaven? I don't know. And it's
Maybe not. Maybe everything is perfect. But it's just I
yeah,
don't know. Like I like the scene of Dante about to die, and he's in the theater, and he's getting all kind of like the flashbacks,
right.
and she
But it's all
shows
the
up.
flashbacks of the original movie too, which is kind of neat to see. Kind
Well,
of
yeah,
like
and then there was some stuff with from Clerks 2 in there and stuff like that, which once again, so I guess those are the only memories they have are from movies. There's nothing of him and his wife on a beach. There's nothing about him and his wife having a picnic. There's
I
nothing.
think a lot of that had to do with I think Rosario Dawson was too busy and could not commit to like a big,
She's throughout
to
the whole
being a big
movie.
part.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's a few days of filming
sort
she
of
did there. That wasn't, well, the cemetery would be one day of shooting.
one day.
Okay, then I know she pops up another time, and oh yeah, when he's about to go in the movies.
Yeah, but
So
that
that's
yeah, and
that's
that's
another day. So that they needed her for a night shoot, and
but they
then
could have
her in the
done
movie
that the
theater.
same day and night. They could have just shot all of her stuff all in one day. I mean, somebody fought me online when they were and I just stopped arguing or like stopped like messaging about this, but like people are like like people who probably never made a movie or never made a TV show or anything were arguing with me when I said like Oscar Isaac could probably shoot all his stuff for a TV show in 1 month, right? You know, it would just be nothing but all his stuff, right? You shoot this scene and everything. They're like, you can't just shoot all of one person's stuff in a month and everything. I'm like,
They do it all the time.
they do it all the time.
How
But I
about
can't argue that. I can't say anything because these people have never made a movie and they think they
they
know.
don't know that you hire Eric Roberts for one day, and you start him at 6 a.m. and you end up at like
Yep.
midnight,
Yep.
and you shoot
I've seen that happen
his
with Eric.
every single scene.
Yeah,
And
I saw that exactly happen when I worked with him on Collision Earth. He was just there for that one day. He got all his stuff done, and it looked like he was in the whole movie, like throughout
yeah,
the whole
they
movie.
just space it throughout the whole film.
Yeah,
So
so it
yeah,
could have happened with Rosario.
they could have.
They
Depends on
could
how
have
fast
shot her
they
stuff
cut.
during the
Yeah.
day and then her stuff at night. Had that one time where she's in the theater or whatever together. Because did you notice he was always every time he was with her, he was wearing the same outfit. So it didn't matter. Like they didn't have to change his clothes, didn't have to change her clothes because she's dead. She's wearing the same clothes. So
Wouldn't she
I
be
don't know.
pregnant?
What?
Wouldn't she be pregnant? Like
I
if
guess the
she
baby would be up in heaven.
so she had birth to the baby in
It's
heaven,
not
and now
birth.
she
It's like the baby's dead, so they're
so
both
it
in
would come
heaven
out of
together.
her stomach in
I
heaven.
don't think it would have came out of all anything. I think it's just their souls. They're not. It's not her. It's not her body. Her real body.
So
It's her
her body
soul.
is pregnant with the baby, and then the souls go up to heaven, and she's not
Yeah.
pregnant, and the baby is alive.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's what we're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
I
And I
guess
mean,
I'll buy
there's
into
the
that. Sure, why not?
idea in heaven that people can that if you had like if not an abortion, but if you had a
Like a miscarriage or something.
miscarriage or something, that the baby is up there, in heaven and stuff, because it wasn't the baby's fault that you had you know what I mean? Like whatever. So God doesn't like look bad on that. But that's a spiritual / religious debate, kind of thing, where you are an atheist who doesn't believe in any of that shit. So
No, I do not. I believe when
so
you
it
die,
doesn't
it's
matter to you
lights out.
because
That's about it.
so heaven doesn't matter to you really, but like that's
No,
my
but in the
take on it.
context of the film of how they're portraying her, then it does matter because if you know because in a lot of movies the person sees that person like right as they were right before they died. So if it's a
Right.
car accident or a suicide, or if it's a horror movie, you see them after the suicide. You see like their the wrists are slit or they're hanging or whatever. But if it's more like a kind of like a thriller, like a supernatural type thriller, you might see them, like if it's a guy and his wife died, you would see her pregnant, like standing in the distance,
Right.
because that's his last memory of her, is that she's pregnant right before she died. So that's why I'm wondering what was Kevin Smith's idea, because technically Dante would remember his last memories of her would be pregnant.
Right.
Unless she wasn't showing yet, unless it was so soon, maybe she wasn't showing. They just knew that they were pregnant.
I'll just say, and this is gonna sound really terrible, but I did not like the child. I like the idea that Dante didn't understand the thing and got like a child newspaper reporter kind of thing. I thought that was funny. Having the mother in there, she was so obnoxious at times that I just like when she was like, "He looks drunk. He looks like he needs some bread and butter," and I was like,
I'm like, that's not funny. That's
and I was like, wait. I was like, why didn't they just get that same lady from Clerks 2? Unless she's not alive anymore, but I think she is. But the same couple.
But you could, and they've done it in other movies where all of a sudden, Randall could be like, well, where's the reporter? And you hear, I'm down here. And he looks down and there's this little kid with a pad, I'm from Alexander Middle School and I'm going to for the paper. And he's like, oh, fuck, Dante. Instead we got this wisecracking woman who's, berating her husband and her kid not doing anything. And
there was a couple cool throwbacks that I like the offended guy played by Walter Flanagan, Walt Flanagan. And there's that part where he's like, "You've highly offended me." He got kicked him out again or whatever. He's like looking at the eggs and stuff. So it's really funny to me because those were two different characters in the original Clerks.
Yeah, in the original, it's like
and they were played by the same guy. And then he just mushed them together. So the egg guy, got kicked out. Hey, we're about to make a movie here. Get out. And he goes, "You have highly offended me," which is right. I'm like, he should have gone, huh, that's funny. I remember him being, right? I wrote that down as being like, you should be in this, be put in my movie. Because that's what he was doing. He was just throwing in all the characters, all the actors,
I
all
don't,
the people he knew.
It's so late. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's funny. It's nice to see these people back, but dude, it's 28 years later and still making the same jokes from 28 years ago just aren't funny anymore. I mean, there's a reason why this film bombed and Top Gun Maverick didn't.
There is sort of a throwback to nostalgia kick that people are in right now. That maybe that's what they were trying to say they were going to market to, but they never mentioned that, but like, because there should have been a line where Dante looks over and says, why are we making something about the 90s? Right? This is the 2000s. Maybe we should make it about 2020, or something.
Well, yeah, or yeah, you could say, okay, this happened in the 90s, but let's update it for today.
Right. And then they go, but then they look over and say, and he says, oh no, there's this nostalgia kick, because there is a huge, especially for the 90s. People are talking about the 90s and kind of missing it, not just me, because I'm also missing the 90s, but a lot of people
I don't know anybody who misses the 90s.
I do. So,
but I know people always seem to miss the 80s, but okay. Now
I don't miss the 80s because I didn't really grow up in the 80s. I didn't really.
Well, because
I grew up in it. I lived in it, and for 7 years.
A lot of young people love the 80s, and that's why so many movies that are anybody, basically like Gen Xers and stuff like that, when they make a movie about the 80s, they get it so wrong because they weren't born in the, they didn't live
Right.
through the 80s. I was born in 1967, so my decade was the 80s. And so I lived
I was
through it.
born in 82, so
Yeah.
I lived through it for like 7 years, basically up to 89, and then whatever, right?
Yeah, so
So
stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Valley Girl, Last American Virgin, all this stuff happened. That's what the 80s look like, but to other people it's more like a documentary
right,
of that time period. For me, I lived through it. That's how people look. They actually did
it was
look
like a
that way.
time capsule,
Yeah. So,
Um,
well,
and
so I wanted to bring this up. So Clerks 3, its budget was 7 million, surprisingly, and it
I
only
mean, how
made
much was Clerks 2?
4.7.
I think Clerks 2 was way more than that.
Well, let's see. Okay, so Clerks 3, 7 million, only made 4.7 million.
So far, I mean, his stuff usually does really well on video and stuff,
Uh
more so than anything.
yeah, but you don't really count that. Um let's see here. Oh, new script, 2019. New script following Randall after surviving his heart attack and Dante making a movie about their lives at the store, a plot intentionally conceived as a film adaptation of Clerks, the animated series, titled Clerks Sell Out.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember he was going to do something about that.
Yeah, so that's new script 2019.
What was that? What?
New script 2019. That's what the Clerks sold out is.
Oh, okay. Clerks 2 was made for budget was 5 million. Really? So only 2 million more than on the budget. Opening weekend made 10 million and has grossed 24 million.
So initially it technically wasn't a hit because it has to make back twice its money, but it did make over its budget. This did not. So
But
because
also
Clerks
he did
2 is
this
also
differently.
positive.
He didn't put this in the theaters like theaters. I mean, this did go to theaters a little bit like later, but really his main thing was taking it on a tour,
Well,
and
because he
stuff.
knew it would, in my opinion, he knew it would bomb.
Well, he also wanted to make it more of a fan interaction thing with him,
Yeah, I mean, it's I did read that Smith said I guess after Cop Out that he now just makes movies for himself, for movies that he wants to see.
Well,
My answer to that is fine, make what you want and then watch it at home and masturbate and don't release it. Because apparently nobody wants to see these movies because they're
well,
bombing.
we know independent filmmakers who make movies just for themselves and release them on Tubi, and they, so are you? So maybe they should not make any more movies and whatnot, but they
I,
do.
I
I mean,
I would agree
everybody
with that
does.
with Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie makes movies that he wants to see, and nobody else does. That's why his movies
I
bomb.
mean, yeah, it,
Nobody wanted the monsters. Nobody wanted Three from Hell. I mean, there's a
I
reason why.
wanted Three from Hell. I never watched it. I haven't seen it yet.
If you
Um,
notice, the monsters is on. It's I forget the exact title, but it's a universal label that only does bad remakes and sequels. It's basically direct to video stuff. So he couldn't even get the monsters just made through Universal. He had to get it done through a sub label that makes bad direct to video movies.
yeah. Speaking of Universal, that's a big reason why Mallrats 2 hasn't been made yet. Because Universal has to sign off on it and everything. They own
Oh,
that
when you
property.
say made, you mean on what, Blu-ray?
Well, no, they haven't made Mallrats 2 yet, period.
Oh, Mallrats 2. I didn't hear 2.
No, yeah. Mallrats 1, yes. I don't even know how Arrow got, a release of it or whatever, but they did, and thank God they did, because Arrow loves extras and shit.
Right. Well,
And I love extras, I love seeing that shit.
so okay, because I want to get to Kevin Smith's films and then we can quickly go over those because we should wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
So now I mentioned to you, and you've never brought this up to me, the ending, that final shot of just the camera pulling back, and there's like the Force ghost of Dante, and there's
Yeah,
Randall.
he's there, but Randall doesn't notice him or
Yeah, because
anything.
it's his ghost. His presence will
Right.
always be there. The camera pulls fully back. Then we see Kevin Smith's daughter going through the milk like his mother
Like your
did
mother did
in Clerks 2.
in Clerks 2, which also was what she played in Clerks 1.
Yeah,
You
so
know?
it's a nice little family thing. And that final shot
And there's
teared me up.
also like Silent Bob's playing with the kite, the Jesus kite, the whatever, and stuff, and they're running around for a little bit. They're like, you can see them kind of running through the store,
Yeah.
and stuff. Thought that was nice.
But did you have any did you like that shot? Did you I had
Yeah,
an
I mean,
emotional response,
that never,
surprisingly.
none of that bothered me. Um, I think at first the Dante's death really bothered me because I'm one of those people that like I love sequels, and I want Dante and Randall to be together for as long as possible, right? And then the second time I watched it, already knowing it's gonna happen and everything, and I just wanted to like let it sink in and everything. And you mentioned before him being in the audience with Becky and watching the movie, and then saying, you know what, she said, do you want to watch the whole movie? And he's like, I trust the director, and he leaves with her, and everything. It was such a sweet, I even sent Brian O'Halloran a picture of Dante and Randall, the Force Ghost thing. I said, this just made me cry because like it was so sweet. I did like it. I liked it. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
I
I think I
didn't
liked
mind
it the
Dante
second
dying.
time a little bit more because I think the shock of it the first time of like, oh shit, it fucking killed off Dante. And then I heard
Which
somebody say
yeah,
that
I didn't mind that at all, actually. Yeah,
I
I
think
kind of
if
liked it.
originally they were going to in Clerks 1, remember, with Coey, and then bring that up. And he's like, what if we're going to do sequels? What am I, a hack? Or whatever. Fine. Producer says you got to leave, right?
I still get paid though.
No, he goes, I still get pay or play, right? I love that because he's the guy. That's Kevin Smith's cousin who did that part in the deleted scene in the original Clerks, which you can actually watch in a I think it might even be on the one of the Blu-rays, but there was a different cut of the film and everything, and you could actually watch the whole like what he originally put on Sundance, his
Oh,
Sundance cut.
it's the Clerks X DVD.
Yeah, it's the Clerks
It's the
X
anniversary. There's two
anniversary.
DVDs, and one is the theatrical and one is the Sundance cut. Yeah, I used to
Sundance
own it.
cut, and then has
Yeah.
the ending with him shooting, and everything, and then ends with just the sound of the cash register. Like, oh god,
Yeah,
it's
it
so
has
dark.
the 10 minutes that Weinstein had them cut out is back in it.
Well, it
But
wasn't Weinstein originally. It was the guy who originally watched it and basically helped get it discovered and everything. He watched it and he said, uh, you know, this movie is so great, but that ending ruins the whole movie because you care about these two characters all the way up to the end, and then you kill off one of them because you don't know how to end a movie,
well,
and then
so that guy might have had them remove that ending, but I know
right,
at Sundance is the guy that was with Kevin Smith, and they were showing it, and Harvey Weinstein was at the screening. The guy, and Harvey Weinstein laughed. He liked it. He goes, okay, when Harvey talks to you, already have in your head 10 minutes of the film cut out, because it was notorious. And this was like Cinema Paradiso and everything, is all of their films they would cut 10 minutes out of so then they could claim ownership.
right,
Even though, so that was like their way. So all that stuff, yeah, including the shooting, is back in that one copy or that one
right.
disc of Clerks
Well, good.
10.
Okay, so you got that. So that guy was also in Chasing Amy because he played Coey London. So in Clerks 3, because he was the guy who like was like, You do I know Alyssa Jones? Hell, I know Alyssa Jones. Me and Rick Darris used to fuck her in the, blah 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 blah. And so he later was in this Clerks 3 playing Coey London, but also playing, the guy who shoots, saying it was so meta, that it was way too meta. Like it was almost like if you're a real big Kevin Smith fan like myself, you know way too much of what's going on, and it just feels like, oh my God, I feel like I'm watching somewhat of a documentary, not just, you know what I mean? Or like the characters are sort of in a documentary about the clerk, you know what I mean? Like it's just weird to me a little bit, but
Yeah. All right, so let's look at his films. So there's not that many actually. I mean, he's on Wikipedia. I mean, he's got like 1,000 things
are you
listed
just
here.
going with the ones that he directed or the ones that he directed, wrote, produced?
Directed.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's actually only one that it's saying 2013 Jane Silent Bob super groovy cartoon movie.
Yeah. Did he direct that?
He did not direct it, but he did write it. He also was not the editor on it.
Yeah.
So that's the only one
That's
on
actually
here
that's on like Prime if you ever want to watch. It's not great, but it's okay. It's it was cool to see more Jay and Silent Bob. That's all I'm gonna say.
because they never get old. So we start off with Clerks, which we've talked a lot about. So he's, so for the most part, in almost all of these, he's the director, writer, and editor. So I'll mention differently when he's not. After that, he did Mallrats,
which I love.
Which I love too. So, but he was not the editor on that, obviously. That's something that he's complained about many times. Then, so it was 1994 Clerks, 1995 Mallrats, 1997 Chasing Amy. So which I hated when I first saw it, and then I saw it again and I liked it. I just thought
I always loved it. I mean, I
just thought it was so fucking cheap. It just looks so cheap. like
I mean, it was only made for 250 grand. I mean,
that comic book convention at the beginning looks so bad. But okay,
I don't know. I see. I mean, especially when I first watched it, I had never been to a comic convention, so I can't, And then on top of that, I was just watching I was looking for like Ben Affleck and stuff, or
well,
whatever. But anyway.
And I guess, I mean, it goes back to everything is his life. So Clerks was his life. He knew people in Mallrats that were like that. Like he said that he knew a guy who held an empty cup all the time and walked around with it. And then Chasing Amy was him dating what's her face, who was in Clerks.
Melissa, Joey Lauren Adams, yeah.
Joey Lauren Adams, yeah, was his experience of dating her. Then Dogma was 1999. So that's him with Catholicism. 2001, Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. So, which is very funny. I like that quite a bit.
I enjoy it. It's still a movie I can like, if I'm really like having a kind of a bad day or something, I just want to watch something I've seen a billion times already, and it moves very fast,
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I enjoyed it.
Very cartoony.
And then we get to 2004 Jersey Girl.
I actually have always loved. I mean,
one day maybe I'll rewatch it. I hated it.
You hated it when you first watched it?
I hate precocious children. I don't think children should be in movies. Just they're so lame. There's out of 100 movies where kids are part of the main cast, there's only like 2 where the kids are tolerable. And for the most part, kids are always so cute and peppy and brainy and oh my God, so precocious. They're so annoying. And
there's this scene where Ben Affleck yells at the child, that just broke my heart, right? Because he didn't mean to. He was just saying everything that he's probably feeling at once in his life, and just yells at her and says, "You little shit, you took my life away and I just want it back." And I was like, oh, like it fucking the first time I ever watched it in the theater, I was like, oh my God. I think the whole room went silent completely. Like, it was such a great dramatic.
The whole audience of 3.
Hey, If it was audience of 3, then it was me, my dad, and my mom, because I
There
know I
you
went and
go.
saw it with them. So I think there might have been a little bit more than that. But
Well, and I don't blame him for it. I mean, it's a Hollywood movie. Mallrats was Universal, so okay, he's taking his, he's doing his try at Hollywood movies. Where
but he was also, and you've talked about this before, a lot of what he does is based on what's going on with him at that particular time. Clerks, that he was a clerk, and he was just writing about being a clerk.
but I wouldn't say
Mallrats,
I wouldn't say Jersey Girl.
Yeah, Jersey Girl, he's a father.
His
He
wife
just became a
his
father.
wife didn't die, and
I
he
know,
doesn't
but
have to take care of the kid.
he wanted to write something for Ben Affleck that would work for that, and he wanted to write something about being a father. And there was a big talk about, Affleck saying, "I love Chasing Amy. You got to write something like Chasing Amy. Do another Chasing Amy." And he was like, "I don't have any." And it wasn't it, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe it wasn't very completely personal, but it did have Jersey. It did have the stuff that he's sort of known for and everything. And I don't know, is Liv Tyler I thought was fantastic. And Jennifer Lopez is only in it for 10 minutes and she didn't bother me, I mean, I don't there was the whole Bennifer situation, which became a problem,
Ugh,
you
yeah.
know. And I guess you can say Bennifer about every girl Ben Affleck dates because he likes Jennifer's, you know. But
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll rewatch it one day. I don't know.
I like it. I showed it to Jackie when I was in LA, and she enjoyed it. I mean, it was cute. It had
well,
cute moments,
but when
you
you're
know.
coming off of Jay and Silent Bob, which is like a total comic book movie, to then go into, my wife died and I have to take care of the kid that destroyed my life type of thing, then that's a little heavy. I mean,
Yeah,
so maybe people just didn't dig it. And there were a bunch of like kid movies like that. I mean,
yeah.
with the precocious kid, I mean, Johnny
George
Hughes even
Carlin was
did.
great in it. I mean, I don't know. I liked it. I thought it
I don't know,
was
maybe I'd like it better. I don't
enjoyable.
remember
No.
any of these people being in the movie at all. I only saw it in 2004, I think, when it came out on whatever it was,
Yeah. And you probably
VHS or
hated it just
whatever.
because it wasn't sort of what you were used to with Kevin Smith too. Also,
It's
because you
possible, yeah, that it's just something that I didn't want. Then after that, 2006, Clerks 2, which we've talked about.
mhm.
And so after seeing that documentary, it makes sense of why he would have done Clerks 2. And then after that, we got Zach and Mary make a porno.
Which, I mean, like I said, I like the first half of the movie when they get into like them actually going to make a porno. I was like,
No,
like I just didn't. I think it fell apart a little bit. And yeah, you're right. Like nobody really gives a fuck if two friends have sex
no,
or have a relationship. Like
doesn't
that's up
matter.
to you, like whatever. But you know, I don't know. It wasn't. It was an excuse to work with somebody big like Seth Rogen at that time. Seth Rogen was just coming off. I think this was 2000. What you said, 9 or
2008.
8? So it was right after Knocked Up. So that was 2007. So like Seth Rogen was the man at that time.
Well,
Elizabeth
and
Banks was sorta, but not really.
well, she was the I mean, she was part of the Judd Apatow camp. So she and
Right,
Seth Rogen knew each other.
right.
It was all,
So
yeah.
there was that like chemistry of like they're already good friends and they probably already, they've have scenes, you know what I mean? Scenes together. So I don't know. I loved her in 40-Year-Old Virgin, by the way. I adored her in that.
Oh,
Um,
she's great in that. The behind the scenes where she's in the bathtub and the water is coming out, and
right,
she's she's supposed to be masturbating with the water coming out in the tub, and she just goes that's not going to do anything, and she turns it up,
right.
and I'm just like, oh shit, has she done this before? Like she
Yeah,
knows how much water it would take. And I thought, oh my god,
maybe
this
she had. I don't know.
at that time I loved her because she was like a guy's girl. It's like you could hang out with her, you would want to have sex with her, you would want to, but like she'd just be fun to hang out with and everything.
Yeah.
And now she's just a nuisance. But
Well, no, and I can't wait to see
I
Cocaine Bear. So I
I
mean,
may
whatever.
I'll wait till streaming. And then after that, 2010 Cop Out.
I mean, I own it because actually I only own it. I did not buy it. My aunt gave it to me for Christmas one year, and because she saw it, and I don't think she knew I like. And she didn't know Kevin Smith did it, but she was like, "This looks like something John might like," and I bought and I got it, and I was like, "Thank you for buying it for me," because I would not have probably bought this myself. And I do like being a completist. I do like having all the Kevin Smith movies. I'm gonna
Right.
eventually get all the Kevin Smith movies. I'm missing Clerks 2, Zack and Miri, which I think are both on the same on a double disc, so I can eventually get them together. Yoga Hosers, Red State, and Jersey Girl. So I need all of those. But
I
so I
need
need
all
a
of them.
few. I'm behind on my Blu-rays. You know,
And on Cop Out, he directed it and he was the editor, but he was not the writer.
he wasn't the
Um,
writers, which I think he did. He did do some, did
he probably
did
did
call it for
rewrites, I would
some
think.
things, like add some lines or something.
Which, and as I'm sure Bruce Willis did too, because he is known as a backseat director. So, that's so he probably did his
And
own
he
stuff
probably
with
said, "I'm going to say this line, and you're not gonna do anything because I can have you fired."
Right.
Like Bruce Willis is like the man. You cannot
Well,
tell
especially
Bruce
at that
Willis what
time
to do.
period. Yeah.
Yeah,
There was that period where it was just, yeah, Bruce Willis was like king of Hollywood.
yeah.
And then 2011 is Red State, which I really liked.
Red
It's
State I thought was really good, and but I've heard his idea for the ending, and oh man, if he had more money, he would have had the most amazing ending. It would have
or
been
they're
the
like gonna like
Rapture.
nuke everything. Like there's gonna
Yeah, he
be
was
like
gonna have the
bombs.
Rapture. Remember, it's from the one of the Evening with Kevin Smiths. He talked about that or something. He was gonna have the
Yeah, that
Rapture, and
that
everybody's head was gonna explode, and it's gonna be amazing.
it would have been an
So
interesting double feature with Dogma, because
yeah.
it's very
Oh yeah,
serious.
Dogma has
So
like head exploding, doesn't it? Or something like doesn't Bartleby's like
I think, yeah, like his head blows. Yeah, something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that? So yeah.
Then after that, 2013 is that Jay and Silent Bob's a super groovy cartoon movie. So then 2014 is Tusk.
Tusk, which
So
I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I've seen it twice. I like it. It's something that I don't know if I would want to watch again. But I think it's one of his more competent films.
It was his beginning of his middle-aged era, where he started to kind of feel like because I think it was right after his heart attack that he made it. And it was starting to like get this feeling of like or maybe was it before his heart attack? I don't know, but he was starting to get this feeling of like I need to make my own fucking movies. Look, I need to get back to like making what I want to make again. Like I listened to him do a stand-up thing where he was talking about that. He was talking about how he made Tusk because he wanted to make that it was something from his Smodcast. I mean it was just a joke that him and
Oh yeah, yeah, I
Scott Mosier
remember
were
that. Yeah.
doing, and he was just like, that would be a fucking hilarious movie. I gotta make that because nobody else is gonna make it. And I will say that was the most amazing thing in the world because, when it was his fuck it movie. I keep hearing about that. Like there's movies where you're gonna make the movie because you're the only one in the world who's gonna make this movie. Nobody else is gonna make a movie where somebody turns somebody into a walrus. Like it's just, if
It's
it's in your
original.
brain, just go do it, and everything. And I say that was amazing. So I love Tusk for that. Yoga Hosers, which was next, I believe.
Yeah, that's 2016 Yoga Hosers. I have not
Yikes.
seen it at all. And
No,
a
it's
couple
probably
of
for the better.
yeah, a couple of the reviews that I watched for Clerks 3 talked about, once again, it's going back to the well. So instead of having two men at a convenience store, now it's two young girls at a
Oh
convenience
no,
store.
yeah, it was
So
they did the convenience store stuff, but they did that in Tusk. They were in there when
oh yeah,
Justin Long was looking for direction. So it's just continuing of that characters,
right.
it's just like, I want these to tie. He wanted those two to tie into the other movie. So he used those girls as like, this is the same area. It's like how he does with Chasing Amy, he has, or whatever, in Mallrats.
Yeah,
all these,
just I have my Jersey connection and I got my Canadian connection.
yeah,
Type of
which
thing.
he loves
So.
Canada. I mean, he went to Vancouver Film School. He loves Degrassi, which in Clerks 3, there's the Whatever It Takes song, which is the theme song. Whatever it takes, right? I'm sorry, I'm a bad singer, so that was terrible. But that was
I know of the show, but I've never watched it, so I would have no idea if you're poorly singing.
and that was the only reason I got into Degrassi was because I knew Jay and Silent Bob were in a couple, or Kevin and Jason were in a couple episodes of it, playing themselves, and I wanted to see it, just to see them in something else. And I was like, what is this show? And I started watching it and I became a fan. I interviewed a girl from Degrassi too. So,
there you go.
Love it. Anyway.
So the next one, 2019, Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Once again,
Reboot.
I've seen it once. Maybe I need to watch it again. I think I laughed twice. Maybe.
You laughed twice?
Maybe. I might be thinking of Clerks 3. Maybe I laughed twice in reboot.
I'm kind of mad because they don't have commentary on this one. Just interviews and stuff. But I honestly, I think if you watch it again, you're probably still only gonna laugh twice. It's not my favorite, and it does do Back to the Well. It does a lot of jokes back to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and everything. Like, it's like, hey, remember that movie I did back in 2001? We're doing it again, but the whole idea is it's a reboot of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, so it's kind of.
I did like that in Clerks 3 when Jay says, when they're trying to get, Silent Bob to be the cameraman. And he's like, yeah, and on top of everything, we're the only two guys that have been on 2 movie sets.
Right.
And that
So they made a reference to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and reboot.
Would it be reboot or would Scream 3 be part of that?
Well, he's in there because they were in reboot. They actually went on to a movie set for that.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't remember reboot at all. I just remember I didn't like
Scream 3,
it.
I'm trying to remember. It was Scream 3. I think they were just on the back lot doing a tour.
Yeah, they were doing the tour.
I don't think they actually were on the set.
So that's not considered a set, yeah. Because
I guess that's not considered. Plus, it's not his universe, right? Like, it's the Scream universe, so it's almost weird because, like, is it a View Askew universe? Is it part of the View Askew universe? Does that make Scream 3 part of the View Askew universe?
Yes, because Wes Craven is shooting a Scream movie in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
That's right.
So yeah, those worlds exist. Well, the worlds of the movies being made, like they like the Scream killer doesn't exist in View Askew.
I mean, it is weird.
Wes Craven does.
It is weird because you're right, because he like in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, you see him shooting the thing, and there's the little monkey and everything, and it's saying Scream. It's another Scream, right? But they never actually say Scream, by the way. They never, they just have Shannon Doherty going, Monkey Wes, and he's like, hey, very big with the kids these days or something, right?
Right.
But it is supposed to be Scream, right? Like, it's
I believe it's supposed to be a Scream, yeah.
Yeah, because it's got the ghost face mask and everything. So it's Scream. Then Scream 2 is Stab. Or Scream 3 is Stab. Right? So that's a whole fictional world. So does Jay and Silent Bob live in 2 different universes? It's the multiverse.
I think it's time to sit down and make that tree.
I know,
and then just kind
of. Maybe Jay and Silent Bob need to go somewhere else and be in another movie. So Marvel movie, maybe. The Captain, what's it? Captain Marvel. Stan Lee is looking at the script for Mallrats. There's connection. There's connections in these worlds.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Okay. So Kevin Smith would exist, but Jay and Silent Bob
exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jay and Silent Bob wouldn't. So you need to put. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they can't bring Jay and Silent Bob in the MCU. DC universe, they could bring him, and
you just have to retcon it.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that all the time. So
I know. I guess they do. All right.
okay,
Anyway.
so then the next one. So both of these are 2022. Kilroy was here, where he was the writer, director, but not
It's
editor.
like an anthology thing or something.
Yeah, that's what it says when I
don't even know if it's out and available or anything.
Yeah, it
I don't know
says
anything about it.
Kilroy Was Here is a 2022 American horror anthology film directed by Kevin Smith and written by Smith and Anderson something. And then it lists the film stars. One of them is his daughter. Oh, Jason Mewes.
Oh, he's in it too?
Yeah. So, but I'm not, let's see. I'll click on it here.
Oh, there's a book called Kilroy Was Here. So I wonder if that was a
it says it's a non-fundable token.
Really? It's an NFT, non-fungible token, which they talk about in this. No wonder Kevin's into that shit now.
Oh man!
Oh my goodness!
Oh, you mean the biggest ripoff ever?
The blockchain Coltrane or whatever guy.
Yeah. So maybe that's where he got it from, because
that's what I'm saying.
First feature film to be released as an NFT, which are the biggest scams on the planet. But
okay. I don't know. I've never.
All that crypto bullshit is a scam.
I don't.
And then after that, 2022 is Clerks 3. So, but there's if you look below, I mean, there's short films, additional writing credits, executive producer, acting roles, which are like a buttload, Q&A stand-up releases, Jay and Silent Bob podcast releases, television, which is a shitload of, music videos, web, video games, audio drama. So it's like, fuck, okay, this guy's had a life. But I said, this guy has definitely had a life.
Who?
I mean, Kevin Smith.
Oh, okay.
Like, all the stuff he's done, short films, additional writing credits, executive producer, all that, acting roles. Yeah.
Oh, producing especially. Like, he's the biggest. He does a lot of producing. Like, he's produced his friends' films. He produced Good Will Hunting. He's produced a lot of stuff, or whatever. I mean, he's done TV shows, like he did Supergirl. And that was all because of Jay. Jay was into that stuff, Yeah,
he plays himself a lot. It's always, actor Kevin Smith himself.
Or he's playing Silent Bob.
Yeah.
Like in Drawing Flies, he played Silent Bob, which actually, Drawing Flies is connected to the View Skinnerverse because Joey Lauren Adams is in it briefly, and so is Jay, and there's a idea that he was in Chasing Amy. They mentioned the Amy character, right? For Chasing Amy, there's an Amy character that Bob, and he was like, "What bitch? You live in Canada? Like, why have I heard of her, right?" Well, Jay was in Canada, or Silent Bob was in Canada, and drawing flies. And so the idea is, I guess that's Amy that he hooks up with in Canada.
Well, it can't be Joey Lauren Adams. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, she was in it. She was in it for briefly because she was dating Kevin at that time.
Oh yeah, as long as she doesn't play that character, that doesn't make any sense.
No, she's not playing Alyssa Jones. Remember, Amy is actually just a fictional character.
Oh no! I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Joey Lauren Adams can't be playing Amy in Drawing Flies because that makes no sense to the character that would be in Mallrats.
Mallrats, she was when?
Actually, not Mallrats, but in Chasing Amy.
But Chasing Amy, she wasn't playing Amy. She was playing.
No, I understand that, but she can't be Amy, and she can't be the character from Chasing Amy.
No, she can.
No, she can't. What are they, twins?
No, because it's just a different character.
No, it's linked too closely. They can't do that.
They call her a hippie chick, so they don't actually call her Amy.
I don't really care enough about it. So, but there is one thing here. 2018, his Q&A stand-up release. Kevin Smith's Silent But Deadly stand-up special filmed an hour before Smith had his near fatal heart attack.
I watched that. Yeah,
in 2018. Yeah, so just know while you're watching it, 1 hour after it was done, he had his heart attack.
Oh, I know.
So
Oh, I know. It's you know, but it's still a heart-wrenching like thing, especially knowing because he mentions right before it, you know, that an hour later I had a heart attack. But here's the one here's the thing that almost, you know, part right before I almost died, and everything. It's kind of an interesting thing.
okay. All
I don't
right,
know.
so you should
I
wrap
like
this
all
up
of
though.
Kevin Smith's stuff, no matter what. I mean, even Clerks 3, it's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite, I mean, out of his directing, Cop Out is definitely my least favorite. Because I just don't feel like no, it may be up there with Yoga Hosers. Those two are like my least favorite.
He admits not to having a style. Somebody asked him
Right.
like, "What is your style?" And he goes, "I don't have a style." And he said, "I
I,
don't know, maybe television." He says, "Like I shoot like a television show," which you
yeah.
could see. It's all blocks. It's
Yeah.
not. There's
That's why
nothing.
he's really great as a TV director.
There's nothing interesting about his directing at all. Like I could not say in Clerks 3, "Oh, that's like a nice shot." It's just very bland. Just
Yeah,
looks like
but
literally he's
I mean,
directing a
I
play.
thought it still looked good. I don't know. I'm not, it didn't look like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful cinematography I've ever seen. But also
Well,
we forgot to mention the hockey on the roof, by the way. And I love that scene again. Like I just love the throwback to it and seeing them
it
play in
serves
the
no
beginning.
purpose in the movie, but
I know, but it's just
the first
like,
film, it's part of the plot, but it's
right.
not,
Well,
but
no, it does serve a purpose because now they own the place. They can play hockey on the roof anytime they want. That was the
you
idea,
shouldn't
I
write
guess.
things just to do it. It's just the hockey scene should serve a purpose to the movie, to the
Yeah.
story. And
Yes. I
that's,
don't know. But,
I like
all
walking a
the
dog in a park. I mean, I'm not going to just make a movie where I'm walking a dog in a park for no reason.
all the comic book Ming guys are in that scene. So you got Ming, you got Brian Johnson, Walt Flanagan, and the other guy, I don't know his name. Feel terrible, but he's sort of not their original crew member. And then
Oh, the
Hot
Asian guy?
Goalie. No, the Asian guy's Ming,
Oh,
Ming
that's, yeah.
Chen. And he used to be the webmaster for the
Oh, for the
web
View
board.
Askew. Yeah.
Yeah, for the very skew stuff. Um, but he became part of Comic Book Men and everything, and that was fun. And then what is it? And then Hot Goalie was Vincent Pereira, who came out for the day to do that, which I think was great. Like, they had him come out to play a part, and Vincent was a big part of the reason why Clerks is called Clerks, because he actually suggested rude clerks because he did not like inconvenience. He thought inconvenience sounded too pretentious, and stuff. Uh, and inconvenience is a great title, but inconvenience 2, would not work. Clerks 2
No.
works,
Yeah.
So
Well, sure. One word titles are good. So,
yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
that's all I pretty
All right.
much had to say, really. I mean,
Okay. Well,
I
let's,
enjoyed it. Not as I enjoyed it more the more I watch it, but it's still my biggest problem with the movie is it's still my third favorite of the Clerks ones. It's Clerks 2, then Clerks 3, because Clerks 3 doesn't have as many memorable lines as Clerks 1 or Clerks 1 and 2 do. There's no 37, unless you count the
no,
fact
it's
that
just all dialogue that they just stole from the other movies.
yeah, it's all just rehash of the original stuff. So,
Yeah.
Clerks 2 had at least like the the what the really bad racist stuff that was hilarious, kind of porch monkey scenes
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean that went on a little too long, and
I
I'm sorry.
liked it. I thought it was hilarious because
Unless Randall's like mentally retarded or something. I mean, come on, we all know porch monkey is not a good thing to say.
well,
I mean that's
yeah.
it's just not good. It'd be like him walking around there going Negro, Negro, and people go, what? That's you shouldn't say that. Him going, what? That's what my great grandmother used to say, or whatever it was. It's just like you don't know that.
Well, yeah, porch monkey. I never even heard that before I watched this movie, so I never heard anybody call it.
Wow, wow.
I had, I guess I didn't grow up with racist people. I don't know. So I never heard that,
Under a
but I
rock
heard,
or in a cave, though.
yeah. So anyway, I like
I
that.
don't
I
know.
like,
Yeah,
I,
okay. I mean,
I
I like some politically incorrect stuff. You know, there's definitely enough stuff out there that I think is hilarious. You know, there's a ton of politically incorrect stuff that's in the Hangover movies, and I think those are still funny. So I would not want them to re-edit them and take them out. I mean, you know, it's pretty funny. So, you know. Oh well.
So there you go.
What are you gonna do? All right, so let's wrap it up. What do you say?
Yep. So what do you how do you want to wrap it up?
I mean, to finish off the trilogy, go see Clerks 3. I wouldn't say not to go see it. I would say if you like Kevin Smith and you like the other two films, go see it.
If you will listen to this podcast, then you already know the ending to it, which kind of sucks that you didn't go watch it already. You know, like I think hopefully you've already seen the movie yourself before watching this review, and if you have, you'll go you know, go see it again. I mean, if you like Kevin Smith, you know, this is just definitely, to me, this is Kevin just making another Clerks movie, you know, the way he wants to make it.
Just end. Just stop.
Clerks ends.
No, just end. Just stop making movies. Just make this. You started with Clerks. You're ending with Clerks 3. Okay, fine. We got the bookends.
Oh, that's not happening. He's already got like 12
stop.
different movies in development.
Don't care. Just
I know.
Stop.
I'm just saying it's not happening.
He already has the season 2 of Masters of the Universe. That's going to be dog shit because he's already lied about that. Oh yeah, and on top of my other 5 things, I guess I should add a 6 that he's a liar. So, you know, with all the rumors that were out there for Masters of the Universe, which he completely denied, and then they were all true, and then he threw a hissy fit where he cried all over the internet, you know, bashing like
shit, dude.
Clownfish TV and all that stuff, who were right. So I don't like liars. I don't like liars. And he friggin' lied, and he's a guy that has a lot of money that doesn't need to be lying. You know, it's like, dude, just tell the truth. Just say, yeah, I made Masters of the Universe woke.
A lot of these people have to lie because they're under an NDA that says they can't say anything, and they
don't say anything.
Yeah, but
don't interview.
It's hilarious because a person who plays Silent Bob is very fucking talky in real life, you know, and everything. He's not Silent Bob. No. You know, I wonder how much he had to like restrain himself every time he plays Silent Bob to want to say something, and then, you know, whatever. Like, I would like to see those outtakes of like Kevin Smith, you know, have to pretend not to say anything while because, you know, there's that amazing scene in Clerks 3 where Jay is fucking up every line he's saying, you know, like, you know,
right. Yeah, you can't get the line.
There's a million fines in the world, dude. And he's like, what? That's not the line. And then eventually Kevin's just like, or Silent Bob's like, I'll fucking say it. Right. You know, right? Because I think that really happened, you know. So it's just like, that's why
it's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what I heard. What I remember hearing is like Jay just couldn't remember any of the lines of that dialogue. So Kevin had to say it.
It's possible. So, it's possible.
Yep. All right.
And then it became a thing that he.
It became a thing, and that was, you know, yeah. And then he has kept putting that into every Silent Bob, you know, because it's his trademark, you know.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyway, thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Of course. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and thanks everybody for watching. You know, please like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. We appreciate it. And when we come across another film that one of us likes and one of us hates, then we'll do another one.
That seems to be the thing. It's like one thumb up, one thumb down, or whatever. And, you know, we're like, one person might like it a lot more than the other. I mean, once again, it's taste. You know, taste is not disputable. You can't tell me. You can tell me what you like, you know, and I say I like this movie, and you're like, that movie's dog shit. I'm like, well, sorry, I like it. You know,
well, you just have to have good reasons for liking it or good reasons for not liking it. You know, you just can't go, it sucks, and then leave it at that. You have to, well, why does it suck?
You have to explain why, and you explain why you don't like it. But I also explain my part of why I did like it, you know, and I have a lot of reasons to like the movie, you know, more than I have any negative things to say.
And I have a lot of reasons not to like it. And so that's,
which is fine, because you can be that guy.
And you could be that guy that just likes every Kevin Smith film because it's Kevin Smith, you know,
I almost feel like there's more to it too. I think like I like Kevin Smith because for me it's a familiarity that I just really enjoy, you know, and I get that feeling every time I watch a new Kevin Smith movie. Like
to me, it's like somebody saying I like every James Bond movie ever made. It's like not all of them were good.
But
know,
they still enjoy seeing James Bond back on the screen.
But you know, admit that some of them weren't good. You can still like them. There's nothing wrong with liking them.
I mean, I admitted some of the Kevin Smith films were not good, you know, but I mean, I'll tell you which one. I told you which ones I didn't like, and I'll tell you, most of the time, those ones I didn't like, you know, it's very far between the ones I did like, you know. Everything.
There you go. And you can like whatever you want. So that's fine.
Yeah.
Just always know that I'm correct. So
yeah. Oh well, whatever.
All right, everybody. On that note, I'm gonna let you go.
On that note, I hope you guys get one more check at the quick stop. You know,
there you go.
Check that out.
Well, and if you're like me, you know, and if you saw it and you didn't like it, maybe check it out one more time. Maybe your opinion will change. You know,
like I said, I was torn the first time, and I think it's because of shock of like. I did not want Dante to be dead. But then after that, I'm like, okay.
You gotta have loss. It's the third film.
You gotta have a loss. And then you also, you know, maybe Ryan O'Halloran's just done. Maybe he wants to move on. Not play Dante for the rest of his life, you know?
He can always come back as a ghost.
Yeah. Or if they can, I hate to say it, if they do it in enough time, they could do like prequel stuff before, you know, the heart attack and everything. Stories.
Or he could play his twin brother.
Actually, I don't think they would do prequel stuff because you know he was still.
They're too old.
They're too old,
and look old.
On top of that, it's kind of if they did a prequel thing, it would still be very dark because that's where it was at that point. You know, like there was since 2006, he's been harboring this like
you would have to almost do a spoof like what is it Wet American Summer is how they did a prequel to it, and most of the actors came back, and of course they're like 10 years older,
right?
So they do make comments about that, so you would have to do something like that. But
exactly.
But okay,
but anyway that's we're trying to end this thing.
So all right, everybody, I'm gonna hit stop record, and I will talk to everybody on the next one, and I'll see Jonathan on the next one. So
maybe you'll see somebody else.
That's true.
Who knows?
All right, bye.
Bye.